meeting at 9:04 a.m. Thank you for your attendance. Do we have anyone to move on confirmation of minutes, 14th of February 2024? Councillor Guthrie.
Have an amendment there.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move, but I would like to actually note the following amendment. I'd like to move the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 14th of February 2024 be confirmed, including the following amendment, that item 17.1, the 4G rollout to the Maranoa communities, resolution OM/02.2024/31, update the mover of this motion from Councillor Burkett to Councillor Guthrie.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
I'm happy to second it.
Okay, so any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Okay, so all those against? So we take Councillor Hancock in the negative, but we'll note on there that she abstained because she wasn't here. Okay, so that's 8-1. Moving on to, on the table, 5.1, application for permanent road closure on Lot A of AP 16331 on page 49.
I'll move that if you like.
Yeah, Councillor Ladbroke.
I'd like to move that council offer no objection to the permanent road closure of Lot A on AP 16331, and number 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign all relevant documentation necessary.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett, did you do that, or was it because Councillor
I was
McMullen?
scratching my head the first time. So
Righto, well, it's Councillor McMullen then.
part my hair, I was.
I was going to say, not my ears, was it?
Okay, so does anyone wish to speak? I'll speak. I think we've asked for clarity. Is there anybody affected? And the feedback in the report, there is no one affected, so I will support the motion on that basis. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0.
Page 46.
Thank you. (8.2) access roads and inclusion fencing.
8.1.
8.1.
Page just on the other side.
Righto, 55. 8.1, Amby Cemetery and Outback Graves program. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that Council 1 provide a financial donation for the amount of $3,000 to the Outback Graves Group, led by Jane Wilson, for plaques and other auxiliary fittings for graves across the Maranoa, to be funded from the sponsorship and donations GL 2887.2412. 2, endorse $5,000 as a financial contribution to the Amby Cemetery project, $1,000 for plaques, balance for the shelter, be funded from sponsorships and donations GL 2887.2249. 3, acknowledge that Council has provided $3,000 in-kind assistance in January 2024 for machinery access, laying of crusher dust and gravel works associated with the project. 4, work with Jane Wilson on the proposal from Outback Graves about a region-wide program that could be supported in future years. And 5, congratulate Sandra Allen, Coral Bites, Jane Wilson and all other volunteers for their efforts in unmarked grave identification so that the heritage of Maranoa residents can be preserved.
Okay, we have a second, Councillor Ladbroke. Do you have a question, Councillor Hancock?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just double checking, how much is in our sponsorships and donations budget? Can we afford? Have we got that amount of money in there?
Yes, we did. Through the chair, councillor, we topped that up at the last meeting, and we've got a surplus sitting in there. I think of roughly 10,000. Yep.
So 10.
Roughly what, sorry?
10.
Yep.
10.
So at the last meeting, we put more in than what we
Yes,
expect,
we
so-
resolved to top up both the sponsorship budget.
Okay, councillor Taylor.
I'm just wondering what's the difference between the two GL numbers? Do we have two sponsorship and donation pools? You've got two different GL numbers.
Through the chair, I think they're actually different things. So it won't be a second, I'll just, what is it, 45, is it?
55,
55.
55 in the.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, I was just looking at something else. So essentially, yes, through the chair, sorry. I think that is a typo. It is the right GL should be.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
That's right, that is a typo. The sponsorship, the correct GL for sponsorship is 2887.2249, 2249. So instead of 2412, it should be 2249 in the first.
So it is the same bucket.
Yes, it is the same bucket.
Okay.
That's correct. Yep.
So we had a seconder. Now, councillor Burke, do you wish to speak to the?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I think this is a very good project and hopefully for the whole region, but I know these ladies have worked very hard on this and there's been a couple of stumbling blocks with what's been going on in Amby, but I think this is one way to work through that. I think they have got donations of gravel through local suppliers, so that's going to help as well, but there has been a lot of work in this, so I look forward to see it come in fruition.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Ladbroke.
I'd just like to back up what councillor Burkett has said. It is good for the community and for the history of the Maranoa to find out these graves and look after them.
Yeah, councillor McMahon.
I'd just like to back that up as well, Mr Mayor, and I'd just like to point out, I can't remember this term or last term, but Jane Wilson was the lead in the project finding the old Dolby Dilla graves and, excuse me, and went through the big process there as well. I'd like to congratulate all these ladies mentioned in this report.
Sorry, can I just ask, is that the Jane Wilson from Toowoomba?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, multi-agents.
from here,
Yeah,
east to here.
Yeah.
I'll speak. Yeah, I agree with all the comments, and there is other people as well, and they've been recognised as well as all the other volunteers. There seems to be, people that are leading it in each area. In this case, it's Amby, but Jane has been helping and is very passionate. Obviously, former resident, very passionate for this whole Maranoa area, and jumping in and helping as well. So, it's all heading in the right direction, and if we can support this and we've got motivated volunteers, then we're giving them the support, and these graves will get marked, and the plaques, I think they're trying to go for 100 years, so it'll be a great there for a long time, which will be good. There's people that come through and retrace their heritage, and having this information available for people to go and see will be much appreciated. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the move wish to sum up?
Mr Mayor, just to say that I think that the ones who were at the Amby town meeting the other day saw the passion that Jane and Sandra had and how much they spoke about it. So yeah, I'm glad hopefully it's going to be fully supported.
Okay, then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, moving on to 8.2, access roads and inclusion fencing as part of biosecurity planning. I would like to move that that council recommend to the new council recommend to the new council to amend our biosecurity plan to include construction of access track for government staff to inspect exclusion fences, that the new amended plan be presented to the incoming council or something like that, and 2, ensure that there is a consultation trigger for a mail out prior to any extensive clearing. Okay, councillor Guthrie
No, Jeff.
or councillor
sorry,
McMullen?
Mr Mayor, I got a couple of questions. Why is it the government, why are the government inspecting these fences?
So basically, obviously had feedback from a landowner about that there should be a bigger buffer between exclusion fences and into the reserve, and we can do this by putting it in our biosecurity plan. Other councils have done that. They've put that in their biosecurity plan, and it's also got access for our staff from a biosecurity point of view. Director, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, sure. So, under the planning regulation, landholders are allowed to clear 3 metres into a stock route or road reserve to maintain their existing fence. Obviously, that's probably not big enough to get any sort of machine down. One of the things during a biosecurity event is that we'd want our rural lands officers and DAF officers to be able to go down exclusion fences, because they are probably one of the best barriers we've got in a biosecurity event, which means we can potentially have up to a 5 metre or however wide we need it track down the side of that exclusion fence, so that we can inspect it. If you can imagine, 3 metres is getting to the point where it's difficult to drive a vehicle down and open the doors. Yep.
Mr Mayor, thanks to Director Seamus, but none of that's, that resolution doesn't tell anyone that.
It's in the body of the report, but
Yeah, it's an open report. I don't mind adding a couple of words, but
I'm in more than agreement to give them more area. But I didn't. When I read that, it doesn't.
So under the planning regulation, there's a provision for council to be able to clear the area necessary on a road or stock route or road if it's within the biosecurity plan. So if it's contained in our biosecurity plan that clearing is there, then we're able to do it. And so the reason council would have for doing that clearing is for an access track in a biosecurity event.
Yeah, fully understand that, and I'm more than happy to. I didn't get that out of the resolution, and there's been, in my time on council, there's been many people raise that, because actually when you drive around the bush, you'll see we've got some good wide breaks put there. But I don't know whether we need to change that a bit, because it's not just for government, not just for these people who do their own clearing. A lot of them.
yeah, that's right. But if we don't have it in our biosecurity plan, we can't do it.
No, but I think in the biosecurity plan, we just need to say that we're going to get it changed to 10 metres or whatever we decide.
Well, it'll be for the new council. So
Yeah, but
we're
whoever-
just recommending it
Yeah, yeah.
to the new council for them. Councillor Guthrie, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Or what I'm really tempted to do is nearly lay it on the table, because my thinking is, I agree with what you're saying, and I agree with all of the comments made and about the 3 metres. I'm very mindful we've got the Land and Other Legislation Act that has been passed through state parliament. We're waiting for the regulations. These are the parts that are actually going to be part of the regulations. I'm just wondering whether we're a little bit premature in trying to do this before the state, because stock route is actually state government. So they might actually give us the clarification, or maybe we're better off lobbying to the state government as part of their legislation to actually then incorporate this, and then the flow on would be our biosecurity plan.
Well, there is a time constraint on this, and there is a landowner that would like to do something, and they've got machines. So I think this is really just putting it on the agenda of the new council, and the new council can consider it. If the state government change it anyway, it won't be needed. But just remember that another council has this, and it has been beneficial. So rather than putting it off, if we get something on the agenda of the new council, then they can do that. Councillor Edwards, do you have a question?
Sorry.
Councillor Hancock, then Edwards.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I tend to agree with Councillor Guthrie, just with the timing of this. I just want to double check through the chair, Madam CEO, is this even a bit of grey area that we're looking at plans and policy? Like, is it a biosecurity plan or is it a policy?
No, through the chair, you've got a region-wide plan in relation to biosecurity.
So can we even be looking, and I know we're recommending to the new council, which to me doesn't really make sense, why don't we, because it looks like council's recommending to council, whereas if we can do this at this time, why don't we just ask for a report to be brought back to council? It'll just come back to a council who's sitting at the table at the time.
Certainly that's up to council to decide that. Look, I think the way the resolution's framed is to, forgive me for putting words into your mouth, Mr Mayor, but leave a footprint for the next term in relation to access roads and exclusion fencing. One of your issues, based on the debate in the chamber, is that we're currently unable to clear additional lands based on the planning, upon the Planning Act, so we'd be non-compliant to do that. So it's really putting advocacy into the next term in relation to that. I understand that you're saying, okay, we can't, we're not in a position to adjust the plan at this particular point, but you certainly can leave a footprint for the next term to say, hey, look, this is an important issue in relation to the biosecurity plan, where we could increase our protections to landholders in relation to vegetation clearing. So that's the thrust of, I think, the resolution. It's up to council as to whether you agree to that or want to improve that or change that.
Councillor O'Neill? Councillor Edwards was first. Oh, right, then Councillor Edwards and then O'Neill.
Just in relation to biosecurity plan, I mean, if you didn't need to use it, and through the chair asked Seamus and Weena, but so what happens now? Like if there's an outbreak of something and you've got to do something, what happens now? I mean, we've only got 3 metre wide tracks, so this doesn't look urgent to me because this should be urgent technically. In case there's an outbreak.
Just through the
Have I
chair,
got it
the
right? I'm
director
sorry.
can answer that, but essentially is we can't do anything.
Oh, no.
Other than within the existing constraints. So
But
that's
we
the
can-
challenge.
but
Advocate.
We can automatically, under the legislation, as Seamus was saying, amend the biosecurity plan. That's technically able to be done through the council, that's what I'm saying. Sorry,
but
it's
not
part of
in-
the legislation.
Yeah, so through the chair, what the mayor's proposing is that you find another way to support emergency management in relation to biosecurity, and that you do it through your biosecurity planning process as opposed to other constraints, which essentially stop you from doing that at this point.
But it's affected by caretaker, so this is putting it on the
righto.
agenda of the new
Yes.
council.
Yep.
Things might change, as councillor Guthrie said, but get it because there is an urgent need for this. Councillor O'Neill.
But just for you, I just wonder with this tighten it, if you just had that council recommend to the new council, amending the biosecurity plan to include construction of access track for government staff to inspect exclusion fencing, full stop.
Yep.
Yep.
And then the rest goes, if that gets up, this council is advising the new council that this is an issue and you should consider it, but number 2 doesn't need to be there because that should be considered by the new council. And you get rid of that incoming council plan bit and just stop it at fencing. And it's just a very clear message.
Councillor Hancock.
2 questions, one in relation to that. Isn't it already in the plan that we've got a 3 metre access? So it's not about constructing an access track, it's widening the access track.
Whatever the words
Whatever the
are.
words are. My other question is, at the moment, doesn't our biosecurity plan still have to sit under a state, whatever the stock route or the state management plan is? So even if we look at this, and the changes don't come through, as councillor Guthrie has informed us that they might, our biosecurity plan will still have to be in accordance with the plan above us, which would be the stock route plan, is that correct?
Sure. Through the council, that's correct. However, I think the mayors between the councils have been discussing how they can do things, and essentially there is another council that's quite close to us that actually uses their biosecurity plan to actually able to do this,
And they've already got it in place, so we're behind the 8 ball, so, So I'm happy to go with the suggestion, councillor O'Neill.
Still, my question was, why are the government involved? They don't inspect a private.
Well, this
Just through the
stops-
chair, you've got 2 pieces of legislation
Okay.
that might create an opportunity for you where In its current form, the legislation doesn't allow excessive vegetation
I
clearing
understand
beyond
that side of it.
Yep,
but-
and so essentially what you're saying, we're going to use another piece of legislation to actually help support that. But again, there's got to be a line of sight to that, and we've got some precedents there if other councils have done that.
Okay, so I'm happy with that. And I just might put, to Councillor Hancock's point, increased access track.
Yes, yeah, yep.
Yeah, or just put increased access track.
I wouldn't put a figure on it.
Yeah,
then
and
You'd want to go the 10 metres if you're going to do anything.
Yeah, like if a doze has got to swing around or something, you're technically going
Just
over 5 metres.
through the chair. Yep. Yeah, through the chair. We don't have a provision in our biosecurity plan at the moment for an access track. The 3 metres is a provision that landholders have under the planning regulation. It's nothing to do with council. I guess what's being recommended here is that we have now a provision in our biosecurity plan for us to construct a track.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, so that's for us to construct, not the landholder?
We can devolve to a contractor or another party that work. The one thing I'd mention that Bollins had some trouble with is that we would need to undertake the cultural heritage inspection. That's where that was the bit they found. They can devolve the power to construct that track, but the cultural heritage still needs to be done. That was the little snag they hit. So we'd still have to do that. We'd have to organise that, I think, as council.
Councillor Guthrie.
Through you, Mr Mayor, can I just ask Director Seamus? My understanding is that 3 metre rule is actually for construction of, it's actually not tied to biosecurity.
No.
It's tied to landholders being able to go in and construct their boundary fences, which could be an exclusion fence, but that's not tied to biosecurity under the legislation.
No, not at all.
It's actually the width of a dozer blade to get in to be able to clear
Yep.
the fencing line.
It's a provision of essential management under the planning regulation that landholders have.
Mr Mayor, just to follow on from that, I think also, because landowners can go down there regardless of a track and cut trees in that area. I think it's come up previously from different, I know in Mitchell, that it wasn't enough, even that. They wanted more just to construct a fence because they're spending a lot of money on exclusion fence, and if a tree's 4 metres over, 3.5 metres, still going to fall on their fence. So I think, definitely needs.
So this, through the chair, this would relate to exclusion fences because they are a real biosecurity tool. They're very effective at controlling pigs and all those kind of vectors. And so there's sort of 2 parts that would go in the plan. One is an annexure which would map the exclusion fences. So if landholders want to be part of this, their exclusion fence will be mapped. That gives us a picture of where we've got gaps and things like that we could fill quickly in a biosecurity event. And also that access track, you would find you'd be using them in a biosecurity event. You'll be travelling along them and saying, is there any holes? What's happening? Is there been movement of feral animals? It would be very handy for council to have that provision.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just happy to put the word wider access track in there as the mover of the motion. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Burkett. I'll speak to this. This is an urgent need that's been driven by a landowner, but in doing some research, there's other councils that are probably ahead of us, so it's sort of playing catch up. We're in caretaker now, so this is a recommendation only to the new council, but if we get it on the agenda, we're quicker to getting to the end of the process. We realise the state might do something different, and that would be good if it's helpful, but we need to have Plan B, so I'll certainly be supporting this motion. Does anyone else wish to speak?
We just need a seconder through the chair.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, Councillor Burkett.
Oh,
I think
thank
we've
you
all
very much.
discussed it.
Sorry.
Does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0.
Thank you, Seamus.
Okay, 8.3, amendment of resolution CWA AMBI agreement. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that council amend resolution number 0M-04.2022-16 to read as follows. That council, 1, note and endorse the Spinner Yarn Information Hub in Amby. 2, endorse the use of the hall for the project and offer a new management agreement to the Amby QCWA branch and document responsibilities at peppercorn rates. Advise the committee that provisions of access to the hall by vehicles must comply with all conditions of the Department of Transport and Main Roads, Queensland. 4, advise the committee that provisions of food from the hall must comply with the provisions of the Food Act and regulations.
Happy to second that, Mr Mayor.
Okay, we've got a seconder. To the mover, you know, with the QCWA, and I think it's going to be auspices, it's actually, I think, ambi spinner yarn.
Yeah, that's what I thought out of that meeting.
So just, would the mover be happy to...
Sorry?
Would you be happy to put in there ambi spinner yarn? Because it's a different name.
I think actually it was Spinner Yarn originally, Ambi, but I didn't think Information Hub. I just thought that might have been a new one. Is it through the chair?
Shame,
It's just that, well, I was there just at one meeting, and they actually, the new entity has ambi spinner yarn in it. So just by putting the
correct?
word ambi, ambi in there, it's a different one to the
Information Hub
older
as well?
entity.
I don't know about the information hub bit. I would probably.
Should we lay it on the table and make a call? I move we lay it on the table,
Righto.
especially how sensitive
All
it is.
those in favour? 9-0. Okay, moving on. 10.1. ALGA Conference Motions 2024. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council 1 receive and note the report, 2 delegate to the Chief Executive Officer to circulate proposed motions and submit to the ALGA deadline on behalf of Council by the due date.
We have a second, Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Do we have a question, Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, just wondering, is it something we get invited to, or is it just all a paper thing?
Yeah, through the chair, it's a conference in July, so yes, all councillors are invited to that conference.
Do we usually go?
We have gone at times in the past, not every year, but certainly at times we have. And this year they've just brought.
One's gone in this term of council.
Yep, but
No.
you have in the past, yeah.
But
Yep.
but the extra information is we were part of Southwest Rock, and they put motions up and they represent us.
So someone from South West Rock goes?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And they represent us, and that saves a lot of cost rather than sending councillors down there.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a mover and a second. Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Ask one question, Mr Mayor.
Please go ahead.
So the fourth of those resolutions, it's not clear who's actually put that one up, Madam CEO. Do you know who has done the telco one?
Yeah, through the chair, the discussion was actually right across the group around resilient telecommunications. The genesis of the discussion was in, at Christmas time, a number of the councils had quite a significant storm events which actually took out their battery backup for their telecommunications. And so essentially the discussion was around that existing infrastructure should be resilient, and certainly this should be for all of regional Australia that council should be standing up for this. And certainly the discussion from the group was the awareness that the community service obligations was currently being explored by the federal government around productivity commissions. That's under review. But essentially the message is that all telecommunications should be resilient, and that the group should be lobbying for that and ensuring equity of access, especially for regional Australians.
Just on that, and I spoke to it at the last Southwest Rock, and there's lots of feedback in the room, but Telstra especially, I don't know about the other providers, but they wanted to make it all the providers. They actually do not keep their backups like there used to be a high standard. Now there's a matter of an hour or so, and there should be like 12 hours of battery backup, and they're not doing it. And it took a huge amount of push from one council to get them to fix one of them. So to me, this is about, if it's disaster management, someone needs to get the battery backups, because you notice it. Instead of getting 12 hours, you might get 6 hours and you lose phone, you might get 3 hours and you lose it. So this is about saying to the federal government, you've got to do something about that, because they must be doing the minimum or they're just not doing it. So the old days of getting 12 hours or whatever that unit can handle, it's just not being maintained. So, Councillor Hancock?
Just a question, I noted in the report that, last year in 2023, the agreed, motions were addressing failed insurance models for homeowners, support for councils to transition to net zero, and renewable energy project contributions and engagement with local communities. So, I mean, I think they're fantastic, but have we had any outcomes from that? Do we get reported back? So when you say that South West Rock go and represent us, and I'm sure they do, and they do a fabulous job, do we get any reports back of, has there been anything reported back regarding our last year's motions?
So through the chair, what I can answer is that the Insurance Council of Australia has actually met with the ROC itself directly to have this discussion. Has Australian local governments had the outcome that they wanted from the Insurance Council of Australia? I think it's a challenging environment is all we hear. We keep lobbying and advocating, and certainly that same message has been put to the ALGA conference, has been put to the federal government, has been put to the state government, all the Queensland senators, and certainly the advocacy is there around insurance, but it is a commercial and corporate environment, and we can just keep pushing on that. In relation to council's transition to net zero, the state government actually funded the remote area boards for another 2 years, and we have received, the ROC has received funding, a couple of $100,000 to continue for 23, 24, 24, 25. And as a result, we have that, what we call that net zero project being undertaken now, which has just started, which will involve all 6 councils and involve a series of visits to those councils, as well as the development of a customised net zero strategy for each of us, as well as an overarching one, and certainly some support on grant applications. Currently, internally, we're using the support coming out of that consultancy to the ROC to help us develop a couple of applications for council to consider. And in relation to renewable energy project contributions and engagement with local communities, I think this council's been pretty active in relation to saying, you know, there needs to be more engagement around all of those kind of state or federally funded projects, so we know what's going on.
Thank you.
To Councillor Hancock's point, but I don't see a lot of correspondence, so maybe we could ask CEO for correspondence
update?
from ALGA
Yep.
after the conference in their yearly, because they're meant to then,
Yep.
on the approved motions, activate them, like giving feedback that can be circulated to all councillors.
So through the chair, did you want to put an action in there to write to ALGA in relation to the progress of 2020, the motions from 2023?
Yeah, Councillor McMullen, you're the mover. Did you?
Yeah, I'm happy with the change, yeah, just.
Yeah. So would that be just a general one, so councillors get it rather than just on 1 year?
Yes,
Just to get the feedback?
Look, certainly through the chair, what we do know is our state conferences are very good at this, at keeping us informed in relation to our state motions. So I would be presuming that ALGA would be able to give us a progress of those motions, but they most likely do have all of those motions sitting on the website, and I can get that information for councillors and circulate that for previous years.
Yeah, but ALGA should send us something, so we could just send it to councillors, save more work.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So, Councillor McMullen, are you happy for 2023 and
Yeah, that's
future?
fine.
Righto, and future then. Okay, is the seconder happy with that change?
I'm just wondering whether we put progress to date, because we actually really want to get a
Yes.
picture of where we're at now,
Sure.
because the outcome down the track might be that they progress them further, but we really want to know
Mm.
at this particular point in 2024 where they are up to.
Sure.
Wouldn't it just be past, present and future? Like, just covers everything then.
Well,
Past,
what does the mover want? You're the mover.
I'm happy with that. I think, Mr Mayor, I think it covers everything.
Righto, what about the seconder? Are you happy with that, or?
Well, I don't know whether you can get a progress of the future, because that's aspirational. I think you really can only get a summary of where we are at this particular point.
Current,
Yeah.
Well, do you go to past, present and future, just so we get it? Because the idea was that Councillor Hancock, you know, wondering if we get updates, you could get updates out of these motions,
It
you know?
covers it, doesn't it? Up to date, present, and then, and into the future.
And future reports on, annual motions.
So you don't want the 21-22 or the 2021?
Yeah, no,
We do specifically.
yeah, we've asked for that, and you're gonna ask him for future reports on annual motion.
No, we've only, right, to what? You've only asked for 22-23, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah. I think
I'm
that's the
saying
one
we
that
want
we
2021.
moved.
With regard to progress.
I don't think so. I don't think anyone's asking for that. Does the seconder happy with that? Righto. Okay, so does anyone wish to speak to it? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, 11.1, monthly financial reports at 31st of January 2024. Do we have a mover? Councillor Edwards.
I'll move that council receive and note the monthly financial reports for the period ended 31st January 2024.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Question?
Question, please go ahead. Councillor Taylor.
On page 69, where it's, has our loans, basically our loans, do we only have loans with the Queensland Treasury? That's our only loan? And that's just automatically paid when it's like a house loan, this is what you pay every month?
Yeah, it's paid quarterly.
Yeah, paid quarterly and all that, that's good, thank you. And my other question I have is on the sale yards, on page 75. In the revenue for fees and charges, does that also include the wash down, you know, where the trucks do the wash down?
No, through the chair, that's actually, that revenue actually goes to general purpose revenue. So
So
for
it
the rest
doesn't-
of the business, yeah.
It doesn't go into sale yards?
No.
Can I ask why?
I think that's just a historical thing. It's not because we don't want to do it. I certainly know that there's internal debate about bringing it
sorry?
across, but at this point, it's just really just been historical practice to do that. That's all.
Councillor
Mr.
McMullen.
Mayor, my understanding of it since I've been council, it's not run by, hasn't been run by the sale yards, it was always run by water, sewage and gas. I think it might be changed now, but
Yes.
in the early days, sale yards had nothing to do with the wash down facility.
Do we set the price on what it like what we charge?
Yes, through the chair.
Is there any rhyme or reason to the cost?
Through the chair, Dee, do you want to answer that? I mean, there's obviously some degree of zero-based budgeting.
The fees and charges are
You
adopted.
have to talk louder than
Sorry, 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 Wendy. It's Councillor Wendy. The fees and charges are adopted by council each year, so they're reviewed each year. So I think last year there was a zero increase across the board on council fees and charges, but there'll be opportunity again this time. So you can look at the cost recovery
So that
side.
does come to council every year for it to
Yes.
conflict?
Yes, yeah, it's
on-
adopted in the
on
fees and
charges.
charges.
Okay,
Yes.
yep. Thank you.
And yeah, if you could just check that, because I thought it went up last year, so if you can just check to see if it did. Because I
Sorry,
thought we had a,
through the mayor, I might be able to just add a bit of value to this conversation. Yes, fees and charges are different to rates. We do send them to council as part of the budgeting process each year. I just know that Dee wasn't fully involved in this process last year, so she probably isn't fully aware. All fees and charges go to council for approval as part of the budgeting process. However, I do kosher it with some exceptions where, for example, we have some other areas such as community safety where they like to try and put their fees and charges in at a separate point in time because they need to be ready to go for registrations, etc. on the 1st of July, which means that they need to have them advertised, say, the 1st of June so that they can start collecting it. I also wish to note that fees and charges can be changed at any point in time by council throughout the year. So if there are any changes that did come through, they would have to be approved by council before they do get moved up or down or whichever way they go. We do provide a variance between what they were and what they are being proposed, and you will see that as part of the budgeting process last year. Generally speaking, we pushed our fees and charges up by approximately 4%, but there were a couple of slight changes, and I think a majority of them were around the cemetery, because I think that did bring some conversation and discussion and debate with regards to those fees and charges. Does that answer your question, councillor, at all? Is it give you?
You overdid it actually, but,
Oh.
but that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. So where exactly would we find the revenue from the truck wash down?
It actually sits in the Roma Directorate Business Unit, so you wouldn't see it as in a detail. We can get that figure for you if you'd like that, but what you're seeing is strategic level figures, so you're seeing the aggregated revenue from council.
Yeah, so it's, I just wonder why it wouldn't be in sale yards.
Yeah,
but
look,
obviously-
through the chair, we have been having some internal conversations around the commercial business units and whether we incorporate different activities into that. There definitely is an historical trend, because we did have different people in the business actually managing aspects of the water management side of things. However, certainly I know that the General Manager of the sale yards is internally having asking the same questions about if the sale yard staff do a lot of the work, if that can't be considered, and certainly it could be.
I just have one more question.
Please go
sorry.
ahead.
I'm now on page 77 for water, and I'm just looking at the employees' costs that are way over budget. Can I ask why?
Through the chair, I probably have to take that question on notice for you to get that back, so just to get a breakdown in relation to that. Unless someone has that.
No, I don't have a specific. I'll have to talk to Wayne, to the manager of that department, and come back to you with some detail.
Do you think in future it'd be helpful if there's something over budget that we have a little
Narrative?
explanation on
Yeah,
the
that's
page?
yes.
So then, because once it
Makes-
gets taken on
makes
notice,
sense.
I don't know that we ever do
Yep,
anything
a
much
full
about it,
oversight.
so thank you.
Yep.
That's all I got.
Okay, councillor Hancock.
Through the chair, when we do our 10-year forecast for our budgets, do we have to take in the cost of depreciation?
Yes.
We do.
So you're
Because-
doing,
Because we have to account, we have to be able to take in
So-
depreciation.
Yes.
depreciation's taken into account in your profit and loss, and when you're looking at the long-term financial plan, you're capturing 10 years of those, both the profit and loss and also the capital expenditure.
Yeah. So I thought so. So I'm a little bit confused then on page 69 when we talk about our cash expense ratio.
Yep.
And talk about how much we have and what future is. That it is actually doesn't include our depreciation costs. So therefore, it's actually not a true reflection of what we actually need to be able to cover our future.
In accounting terms, depreciation is what's called a non-cash item, so that cash expense ratio does exclude depreciation.
So how do we then, if we're looking into 10 years, how do we know that we have the money to be able to cover that when that's not a separate figure here to be able to consider that? Because the average person who'll look at this will go, oh yeah, council's set for the future, but actually we haven't covered our depreciation and we don't know how much that is.
No, through the chair, what your long-term financial plan seeks to do is have your revenue laid out, your expenditure laid out, and your cash position, as well as your capital laid out, and often your depreciation laid out underneath it, because we're always looking at asset sustainability ratios around the long-term financial plan. But clearly, when you're looking at that 10-year model, what you're looking at is your cash position in this year and your cash position in 10 years' time. So essentially, you really are making sure that you can cover depreciation. And of course,
How much is it?
depreciation, well budgeted.
Can I-
It could be as sitting as high as
Can I,
25 mil.
sorry, if I can, I might be able to add a bit of value to this conversation. When we do our quarterly forecasts, which the last one was submitted on the 13th of December meeting, that provides information around our long-term, our cash position, our expected operating cash operating ratio as well too, and we look at that in a fair bit of detail. Our next one that's coming up is in hopefully it'll be at the next council meeting in April or May or whenever that the new council decides, and you'll be able to see in detail the depreciation for the next 10 years. You'll be able to understand what those ratios are per annum across the next 10 years and what we estimate to be our final cash position at the end of the 10 years. I'd have to refer to our quarter two, but I've got a funny feeling it's sitting at around about just under 80 million at the end of 10 years, but I'm happy to go and get that figure for you, but I also refer you back to the council meeting on the 13th of December. It'll take me 5 minutes to give you that if I have the ability to go out and grab it for you. Yep.
I guess from my point of view is, these are the reports that our residents can look at and see that right or wrong, like it's standard and that's fine. We might need to have a bit more detail in our monthly reports to be able to actually fully understand, because that there says that 4 times the target ratio. That is just covering council wages.
No, it's
No,
cash
no,
flow.
no.
It's how much cash have you got in the bank which to cover your liabilities.
Yes. The point I'd like to make too, and it's a very good question to ask, but the point I'd really like to make is a lot of these ratios, and I use the word ratios, they're a guide. They're not the be-all and end-all. They're a guide as to where we see ourselves at this point in time. And as per most, a lot of management decisions, or, as much management decisions as possible, are based on the information you have at that point in time. So it is saying that we're comfortably across that particular ratio now, but also you need to take into account that there are other factors involved in that as well too, such as have we expended our capital throughout the year to offset that? They're the types of things that we do look at. The long-term forecast takes into account that particular trend, and it takes into account the full capital expenditure. So that's why I say looking at the long term around those ratios, which QTC looks at very seriously at the end of the year. They also look at it from the long term, not necessarily on a month by month or a yearly basis. Those ratios are a guide across a year and across a 10-year period. And that just gives an indication: are we on track? Are we not on track? Are we working hard towards where we want to be as a financially sustainable organisation? Yep. I would like to also add that as part of the audited financial statements, we get audited on the 3 legislated ratios by our external auditors, and that they actually audit those ratios at the end of the year. And then they also provide a certificate around the ratios that are provided for the next 9 years for the organisation, but they don't audit those particular ratios. So just to give you a bit of comfort around the fact that those ratios do have some oversight, and they are scrutinised to a certain extent.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, Eric, and those audits, how
Yes.
did they come up of the council?
So I also refer you to the annual report. At the end of the annual report, I don't know what the page number is, where the external auditors provide a certificate around the auditing of those particular ratios to give comfort. One of the council's actually got that there.
Yep. So through the chair, we're formally audited externally once annually, and those results go back into the annual report, and essentially that is the process of us closing our books and having an external party come in and scrutinise that. And they go beyond just the financials. They do look at a little bit more than just the financials.
So, Eric, what was that report?
As on page 163 of the annual report, external auditors, or the QAO, Pitcher Partners as the contractors to QAO, provide an independent report around those ratios for the current year for the organisation. And then they also provide,
The qualification one.
they don't,
Financials.
we also provide unaudited long-term financial, it's called the long-term financial sustainability statement, which is those figures that we then provide back to QTC for them to analyse and then compare to other councils as well.
Councillor Burkett.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So these rates, it's like it's a moving beast sort of thing, I suppose. If capital works, say I'll use water mains, so if the program's only every third year, that will change things. It's not a year, so yearly won't be consistent because certain things will come out in year 3 or year 6.
Yes.
So, yeah, you can't really say it's every year's the same.
Yes, that's correct. So I strongly would recommend to council that when you look at the long-term sustainability ratios, there will be a bit of a fluctuation around what's going on with those ratios. But generally, if you look at it as a trend, that will give you an indication to say, are we heading in the right direction? Are we on target? Are we sustainable? And if we are, then that's great. If not, then why is that the case?
Yep. Thanks, Eric.
We have a question, Councillor Guthrie.
Through you, Mr Mayor, can I just ask the Director, Eric, please? So really, you've got to see this in connection with our asset management plan, because they're 10-year documents that map out
Yes.
what needs to be replaced over a 10-year period. So it's actually incorrect to be looking at it from a yearly point of view.
Yes.
Because you've got to look long-term and look at the planning forward and the riding through the peaks and troughs to be able to then plan.
That's
with
correct.
Clear attention to
That's-
your financial position.
Yes, that's very clear advice there. So yeah, we look at that very seriously around the long term.
So there's two aspects, and councillors, you'd be aware of this because you work through this each year. You see your budget for best practice, which will be those indicators, but then there's lived practice, which is what actually happens during the year, and there's that final wash up, through your annual report and your financial statements. And it's always good to have a look at both of those, because it's always asking the questions about any changes in relation to that. As we'd know is when we get our financial statements this year, some of those COVID supply issues are still coming through the line around capital expenditure. And renewals and things like that. But in the main, this council does very well at budgeting for those indicators, and the indicators are there to make it easy, not hard, but they are indicators. And then we compare, and so does the state government, has oversight of comparing our performance against those indicators.
Now, does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'll just say thanks very much for all that information.
Long answer to a question.
Fairly thorough, I'd say. And yeah, just, these speak for themselves, the statements, and I just think the columns there should be noted and what they're trying to achieve. And I think what CEO said was pretty spot on, as well as Eric, but in relation to following that adopted budget, that's the thing that you tend to check them against and monitor the actuals. So I certainly support all this and all the information there. I think it's tremendous work. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I'll speak. Certainly see some commentary about reduced amount of renewals. Well, certainly what I will say is when we hand the budget down, I personally as Mayor make sure that our ratios, the majority of our ratios are in line or better or very close to. Obviously you get some deterioration over the time. One of the things that I am not pushing a lot of renewals at the moment is because I think we as council need to keep going on the culture journey where we let people at the coalface make decisions in council. I think they'll be better value for money and the renewals will get more done for the money we spend. So you can see in the projections we've got higher years of renewals planned in the future. And if we can get our cost of renewals, do a lot more in-house, work with local contractors that are value for money, that they are the years to do it, not in COVID or COVID years that follow COVID. The value for money has been terrible, a lot of inflation. I believe things are going to get back to normal, and if we can deliver better value for money with renewals, our renewals will go further and our money will go further. So not only that, there's been in the past where projects have not been the best project. They've just they've actually not given us what we've had in the past. So I think value for money with renewals is very important, and when we've got huge years that we're doing so much capital with, so much flood, I should say, works, we need to look at value for money when we do renewals, and I'll look forward to seeing that in the future as we go on the culture journey to give staff at the coalface more decisions and being able to deliver projects that they actually know about. Quite often I get representation about things that weren't done properly because there was different areas of council, and part of when operating locally is working successfully, and it's all through the organisation. The people that have to look after assets should be involved when we do renewals to make sure it's what they want to see. So there's a lot of work to be done in the future. We've only just started the journey, and that will be the time to deliver a lot more renewal projects and get value for money for ratepayers of the Maranoa. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the move wish to sum up?
Yeah, I agree with all that. Also, this is a bit like flying. I like the analogy, you're either on track or you're off track. And basically we're being, constantly monitored and warned about things, or, the good news and the bad news. So that's all part of it. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favour? 9-0. 11.2, risk register and risk appetite statements.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
I can move that.
Councillor Ladbrook.
I'd like to move that council adopt the risk appetite statements. Number 2, adopt the RAS measurement and reporting framework against the risk appetite in the future. And number 3, receive and note the revised risk register snapshot.
We have a seconder, Councillor Edwards. Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor Hancock.
Is this replacing JSAs?
No. This is in addition. Councillors, if I can, we do have, I've been working very hard with an external agency. We had a short workshop on the 21st of November 2023 with Dave Howie, who introduced this particular program. And Dave's actually on the, he's on the blower now. So I'd just like to introduce Dave, if he's...
Hello, Dave.
Oh, we've got to do it this way.
Gonna say it's not there.
We let him in.
We wouldn't normally have a delegation as part of a ordinary meeting of council. We'd have to adjourn to include an external person to speak.
Through the chair, I think the aim of the person being online is actually that if council has any questions and the director can't answer them, that the consultant can. I think that's really the purpose of that, isn't it?
Yes.
Does anyone have any
It's not to do anything
questions?
more than that.
No, well, I think we're right. Thank you, Director. So, we've got a mover in a second. Does someone wish to speak to the motion?
Question.
Yep.
Yes.
Why wouldn't we just recommend this risk strategy to the new council for their adoption?
Through the chair,
Given that
in
it's
its,
2 meetings before the end of this term.
through the chair, in its simplest form, a risk appetite statement is actually about the corporate plan. So it has a direct linkage to that corporate plan, which you developed. Now, it doesn't mean that the next term of council shouldn't reconsider the risk appetite statement and including even refresh that corporate plan to make sure it's on track. But this closes the cycle of that corporate planning process by making sure that the statement protects your vision in relation to that. Does it mean it's there forever? No, it doesn't. It means that the next term of council will look at all of these documents, but it does provide that footprint.
Director, do you see some benefit in us adopting this now?
Look, I see this as a very important, I suppose, framework around us achieving our corporate plan. I suppose I'd like to describe it, and I think hopefully it answers this answers your question. I refer you to page 85 of the agenda, and I suppose I'm going to try and explain this It's taken me a while to get my head around this as well too, around the risk appetite statements, and then also talk about the measurement and the reporting, etc. But after a while, it does make a bit of sense. We have actually done a small workshop with the senior management team to get some feedback and some information around how they're thinking about it, and we do want to report on that. But one way to look at it is if we look at, say, for example, prosperity. The pillar prosperity pillar, sustainable growing and prosperous economy. And we look at the risk appetite statements. The first line says open appetite to. Then if we look at the next pillar, which is environment, attractive, healthy, balanced, natural and built environment, we're talking about minimal appetite to. So when we talk about the first pillar, prosperity, open appetite, we're going to start looking at measurements, which, and I refer you to another page for the measurements, is the more is better. So if I look at a slant and we look at what's unacceptable, the less is unacceptable, the more is acceptable. From a minimal perspective, we look at it a different way, and this is the way I try to explain it to the senior management team as well, is the more is unacceptable, the less is acceptable. So that's the way that I suppose I've tried to explain it in broad terminology. But what I say to you also is it gives us framework around how we actually frame our business cases to council and linking them even further to our corporate plan, because each of those pillars relate to our particular corporate plan.
We wouldn't be able to adopt or amend the corporate plan in caretaker, and the risk statements relate directly, as you said, to the corporate plan, and the appetite council's got to deliver the aspects and the objectives of the corporate plan. They're linked.
Yeah.
So how on earth could a council adopt the risk statement in caretaker if we couldn't adopt or amend the corporate plan?
Yeah,
Look, through the chair, I don't think that that's what caretaker really prescribes. I think this is a subset of your risk management as a chamber, and so I do believe that you can.
Could we adopt the corporate plan or amend the corporate plan right now?
No, but at the same point, this is about protective statements around that document, but it is not essentially a policy setting. It is actually a subset of that, and you've been working through that process to sign off on that.
It says council needs to take some level of risk in achieving its objectives outlined in its corporate plan. It would be too expensive to track all and to eliminate all risk. So it is a document relating to the corporate plan.
Councillor Guthrie, do you have a question?
Yeah, through the mayor, just to direct Eric, I would think we've adopted the corporate plan, so that's a document now for a number of years. I would have to think I won't use the word risky, very dangerous to be then trying to implement a corporate plan without having this risk assessment done, because you're identifying then the limitations and the concerns to be considered before implementation of the corporate plan. Is that not correct?
That's exactly, to be honest, that's exactly how I see it. It gives the framework for which our council officers can actually put their business cases forward to council, and then for them to actually link the risks around achieving our corporate plan. So some of our corporate plan, we want to try and extend ourselves, and I suppose we might want to take more of a risk. Some parts of the corporate plan we're saying, well, we don't necessarily want to take more of a risk, we want to take less of a risk. And that's what we're trying to get through with regards to our risk appetite and then how we actually measure that. And JSAs, I fully respect what Councillor Taylor was talking about with the JSAs. Apologies, sorry. JSAs don't go away at all. They're still a core part of this organisation. This is basically a little bit more of an oversight as to what we're trying to achieve from a compliance perspective. So are we doing our JSAs? Yes or no? And are we doing them to a satisfactory level? Yes or no?
Well, I'd like to move that this lay on the table to later in the meeting to find out whether legally council can adopt this document. Do we have any other questions before we go, so we're not coming back to it?
Can I just ask another question? So
Yep.
what are the dangers of trying to implement a corporate plan without having the risk assessment as part of the process? Does it preclude being able to put controls into place to recognise and then reduce the risk?
So that's one question.
Yep.
So what's the next one?
Is it prudent, similar question, is it prudent based on, there's a filtering down effect of this, I would think. You know,
Yes.
down
Certainly
into various
moves down into
different parts.
operational.
Yeah.
Yep,
And
sure.
I don't know what, I can't express what they are all, but I'm sure there's lots.
Yeah.
Lots where there's filters down into it, so.
Okay, so we'll
Is
get
it
those,
prudent?
Yep.
we'll
Yeah,
get
from a
those
prudent point of
questions.
view.
Any other questions? Councillor Hancock?
Two, thanks, Mr Mayor. One for me is, we've been operating, we adopted our corporate plan, up until now, been working under that corporate plan up until now. I'd like to know what would it matter to wait a few weeks to be able
Right.
to not do it in caretaker mode, because we've been operating under it anyway. My second thing is, Director Eric, I appreciate you trying to explain those risk appetite statements. Is this an internal document or an external document or both? And I have a question why I'm asking that, Mr Mayor.
Okay, so we're just getting the
Well, I
questions,
guess-
so if you can
Yep.
write that down
The
and
reason
then,
I need to know that is because if it's an internal document, these statements might make sense. If it's an external document to the community, I'm struggling to make sense of that whole minimum appetite, open appetite on one, and minimal appetite to proactively ensure that our use of, like, it's a positive and negative. I
Righto,
don't know what the
okay.
average person wants.
so
So do you want
councillor
these-
O'Neill, so we got that question, councillor O'Neill?
I was just going to do what you just did and move
Yeah.
to get legal advice.
Yep.
Okay, so
So
we've
through
got
the-
all the questions, so if
The
we
Chair,
come
we don't
back,
necessarily need legal advice, we just need the department to actually explain whether that's a policy document or not. Do you need answers to any of those questions? Because it really is
We-
the same question, it's
well,
your
we're
corporate
going to
plan.
get all the questions back, if
Yep,
you've written
sure.
them down,
Yep.
as well as we get advice, whether it is legal for us to do it, that's what I'm interested in, is legal, for us to do it. So all those in favour?
Yep.
And that's till later in the meeting? Yep. Righto?
So do you understand what
Thanks,
the
Eric.
question is whether this is a policy document? Yep.
Yeah, whether council should be doing it. Okay, now, we're moving on to
Page 96.
96, thank you. 11.3, nature strip, footpath, road verge, mowing rebate policy. I'd like to move that this lay on the table until the next, the new council can consider this. All those in favour?
Just ask, instead
Yes.
of, we fall into an awful practice this term too, just laying on the table. What you're asking is this matter be deferred until the next,
Righto, I'm happy to use that wording.
which is a mover and a seconder, not,
Righto.
not just a.
Okay. I'm happy to defer this policy until the new council has it to consider. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Burkett. All those in favour? 9-0.
Deb. Good morning, Deb.
Okay. Now we're moving on to
Moving on.
109.
13.1, local area directors, CEO and monthly reports. Do we have any questions? Do we have a mover?
I just want to say there's some good information, especially about the stats from Director Dean. That was some good stuff in there.
And look, and through the chair, we didn't want to lose the value of providing this operational information to council. So when you've concertinaed your briefings, we've done that in a format so they could still have that information, but we've just made some slight adjustments so that it's publicly
Yeah,
acceptable.
it was duplicates in the emails. I don't know if everyone else get that?
I'd like to move that council receive and note the local area director and CEO monthly reports for December 23 and January 2024. We have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Does anyone wish to speak to it, or do we have questions?
I have a question.
Question. We'll do questions first. Councillor Taylor, then Ladbroke.
Because this is in open, is that why we don't see their budget?
Yeah, through the chair, we've modified the micro detail that wouldn't be normally publicly available. So the simplest way to do it was to adjust the reports to reflect positions rather than names, and not to put breakdowns of business unit budgets because they weren't
So
publicly
can we
available.
get that ourselves?
Certainly, we can circulate it to you, absolutely.
Councillor Ladbroke.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I have a question for Matt. Please. Director Matt. I just wondered, it was spoken of last night about the bore. What's the problem with the bore that's around?
Yeah, thanks for your question, councillor. Through the chair, so Seamus and I presented a report a couple of weeks ago just to outline the issues surrounding the Surat water treatment plant. We've come up with a plan. Basically, we redesigned that whole project. We had the bore tank project that was actually being activated, and through a planning cycle, due to the fact that the water treatment plant had an issue and an outage, we decided to review that plan and incorporate the bore into that total plan. So what we're doing now basically is connecting the bore to the water treatment plant through an underbore situation. That will also be incorporated with the Cordelia Street upgrade of our main system there. So we'll get an efficiency saving by doing underground boring on Cordelia Street as well as Charlotte Street to connect the bore. So hopefully, all things being equal, construction timelines being equal, we hope to have that bore operational by sort of just after Easter. That's what I'm advised by the water sewage gas manager.
I think they might have started. I think they might have. We'd certainly signed the POs.
Yes.
I think they could even be on site.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Councillor McMullen.
Just a quick question to Director Matt. We're still putting a tank at the bore though, aren't we?
That's the long-term plan, Councillor McMullen. Yeah, through the chair, we do intend to put a couple more tanks up there, but we just got to measure out the final cost of the project because it is. We did do a change, and I think I'd have to come back to you on the total cost. But I think we're investing $500,000 in all those projects. Project savings would have to be utilised, but
This is only my opinion that a tank needs to be there because that will be straight bore water where if they got to do it for carted away for something other, when they don't need the treated water, it'll be a bit of a saving.
absolutely. We wanted to put at the moment with the AV data and trucks coming in, they're using our potable water out of the 350 megalitre allocation. So we actually want to put a new AV data point in for raw water to be up there, so the industrial trucks can pick up the water, and rather than use our allocated water, which is the treated water anyway.
Okay, Councillor Ladbroke.
No, I just wonder, when you say treated water, is that from the creek or is it from the bore or both?
Another good question. So the bore water coming out will be treated. It's already got a treatment plant up there, but what we'd like to do, because it's sort of heated when it comes out of the ground, we're going to put that down, cool it down as it goes down to the water treatment plant. It'll circle through the filtration system and come back. And so basically residents wouldn't really notice, once it goes through the filtration system, residents won't actually know that there's much of a taste difference. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing that project that way, is because if it goes straight to the water tower, there might be a taste difference originally, the way that originally it was set up.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, Director Matt, the gentleman that spoke to us last night, and I didn't think of it until just now, because there was conjecture where the bore going up at Baroo or down the bottom initially, but I think it ended up to do with the water main cost of, I can't remember, it was, yeah, because it was to and fro which where it was going to be. He just had concerns about there's no water pressure at all up at the, he put some sprinklers on there last night and couldn't even get them to operate, so that was another concern. I think a lot of people in every area still getting their head around the treating the water, you know, that historically been here forever. That's still a concept. I know I still can't get my head around it, but why it's got to be treated. So I think a lot of people still kicking back at that too, I think.
Yeah, it's a complex system. Surat's unique. It has its own water treatment plant, the only one in the Maranoa, and we're still coming. Myself, I'm coming to terms with that, being a new director, but still got the experts here, Water Sewerage Gas Manager and Seamus to guide us through, and that's we believe that's the best system at the moment. But coming back to your question about the tanks, yeah, look, we have to, I've noted those concerns from that particular person. We'll get onto it and make sure that the whole system is operational and working efficiently. So I think we just got to deal with this couple of projects and then tackle it bit by bit.
No, thank you.
Councillor Guthrie and then Edwards.
Yeah, just as really, through you, Mr Mayor, just a very simplistic question. So my thought would be once the tank goes up to that particular area, they should have better ability to turn on sprinklers, etc., because then the tank will fill. Is that correct?
Pumps.
So it's just a failure of the water.
Pressure pump.
There is an issue with the pressure pump and the auto start up on. You're referring to the Warriors Sporting Complex, feeding that water up there. There is an issue. I have got a contractor looking at that. It's just sometimes takes the contractors and plumbers are quite tied up and quite busy, but they will be coming down to have a look at that, and that is on my radar to fix ASAP. No, that's all right.
Councillor Edwards.
Just to all directors, and washdown facilities, where are they in, like, are they all operational and where are they in the Maranoa?
Through the chair, we've got obviously the sale yards, we've got
Roma and
Injune,
Roma.
we've got
Moment, sale yards, where else?
You've got Injune as well.
Injune,
Wash
we've
down
got
this year.
Surat, no.
Sorry, just to clarify, Sarah, yes, we do have a minor washdown facility for QGC there, and they come in under an agreement for us at the
Remember
moment.
Timmy Class come in?
Sorry, sorry.
Timmy Class come in a couple of years ago.
Councillor, we,
Yeah, well, I
through,
didn't know.
yeah, through the chair, we, I
You want
think,
to answer it, do you, George? Well, I didn't hear that, so what was that?
Oh, no, just saying the one at Strat was Timmy Class, the
Oh,
QGC.
right.
The joint program,
Sorry.
yeah.
yeah, through the chair, we've got an internal one at Bringa as well, but we put that in the biosecurity plan that we'd be looking at building a set of new ones, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, CEO, but I think the first one we're looking at is that sort of Yulbar Wallumbilla area.
Yeah.
I think then we'll probably look at a public one, maybe at Baringa, around Mitchell. I think we may have identified 3 in that plan to do over subsequent years. It is really important, and it's, you know, they're a fantastic facility. Oh, yeah.
They're asking, you know, where they wash down.
When we inspected the one at Roma, the Roma sale yards, I mean, it was just flat out. There was trucks, you know.
Nice to know they all want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just talking about seed and
Yeah.
what else, you know.
Yep.
So it's a good biosecurity measure
Yeah.
as well as anything else.
Yep, we've definitely got the plans in place
So
to.
the plans are in place.
Mm.
Yeah, right. So
But-
there's one at Injune at the moment, operational.
Yep.
Can I just give
And
you
there's one
feedback?
at Roma.
So in June 1, there's a line of people, you actually go there and you have to sit and wait.
Yeah.
It's very well used.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's it at the moment.
And the small one in Surat,
Oh,
which is a
sorry,
joint
just the one
program.
there, and then-
Yep.
Yeah, they are about 620,000. I think we worked out each to build. That's
Okay.
that's the whole back, and I think Yulbar Wallumbilla hopefully will be able to partner with the gas guys.
The financial model would be better.
Yeah. I think some of the other ones we might not have the
No,
partnership.
that's all right. Yeah. No, thank you. I just wanted to be up to date with that. Yeah.
Okay, so we got a mover and a seconder. And does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour, 9-0.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I would like to move that council receive a report in relation to tanks to be located at the combined sports club at Surat for the approximate storage capacity of 20,000 gallons to be of benefit in regards to Cobb & Co and general water security for that facility and Surat.
Mr Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes, please
Haven't
go.
we already got them there? The tanks?
No, they're only little ones, 5,000 litre tanks, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, we've put up 4 5,000 litre tanks up there to be connected in future for the sporting group. But yeah, I haven't had an official request come through to connect any more or less.
So basically, I'm just asking for a report to come back. It was raised last night, and I think this has been going on for 2, but I'll talk about it when we... Do we have a seconder for that motion?
So
Councillor Guthrie.
just through the chair, just the last.
Council
words,
receive a
gallons.
report in relation to
Please.
tanks to be located at combined sports club with...
Get the wording right, please, Mayor, can I?
Yep.
Just so we're clear, it's not the combined sports club, it's
the
the
yes.
sporting complex.
Oh, well, okay. Waroo Sporting Complex, happy to
Yep.
put that.
Cobb & Co Festival, I'm assuming that you're talking not the Cobb & Co facility.
Yeah, Cobb & Co Festival, correct.
And just to be clear, just so everyone knows, there is already 2 tanks up there that's been there for years and years
That's
and
right.
years. So the issue last night is that the water wasn't actually getting to those tanks. So it's.
So it's not really about the tanks, is
Well, I
it?
agree we do need more tanks up there with water storage, but just so we're all very clear, what is there
Yeah.
now? There
This is about
tanks.
pumping the raw water up there.
That's correct.
That's always been an issue.
Yeah.
So it is about the pumps,
That's right, because we put new tanks in there a couple of years ago.
which was a request from the community.
Community, because when the board didn't go up there,
Yeah.
we made the decision to help.
Put an extra tank.
Okay, so seconder, happy with that?
Can I
Wording?
ask that the word additional storage?
Additional?
Because I
Yeah.
think that we need to recognise that there are the smaller tanks there.
Yeah.
Which aren't plumbed in
No,
and
yes.
have got and have, like, the community's even saying to me, what are they?
Yeah, yeah.
So, just
Okay, so we're happy with that. I'll speak to it. This has been going on for years. There was a push that Waroo Sports Complex wanted the boiler up there, which would have been easier for pressure, but that was decided to put it down at the water tower. But this is about actually getting it on the radar of the new council that this is needed. It was raised last night. There may be very large numbers for the festival that will come, but just generally having water security and having it on top of the hill is very beneficial for probably many reasons. So I think that this should be something that we need to get on the radar and get a report back about and get on with it. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hancock?
Mayor, may I just put an amendment or add some wording? I do think we need to say, with approximate additional storage capacity of 20,000 gallons, to benefit the complex users
Yep.
in the Cobb & Co Festival, because I think we need
Yeah,
to
yeah,
say,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's actually not about the festival.
Yeah.
That will help, but this has been a long-term thing, and it's about benefiting those complex users as well.
Or
Mr
through
Mayor,
the
I've got a
chair,
question.
Otherwise we'll insult them.
or just a slight change in that wording, or just suggestion user group.
User group,
or
yep.
Warrior Sporting Complex User Group, which is their official title. But yeah, sorry,
Right.
I just
Mr Mayor, could I ask a question? Correct me if I'm wrong, but did you say raw water?
No, I haven't
I
said
thought
that. No.
Someone did, but
Someone said raw water.
Someone
It's
was
not for the
talking
raw.
about the problem,
Huh?
ongoing
We were
problem.
pumping raw water.
Well, yeah, but that's not what this tanks are for, not for the
Mr.
raw
Mayor,
water. They want it for the
drink.
potable, well, it's treatable water.
So
No.
to-
Well,
so
just
treated
really,
I don't know about that, actually.
This is where it gets confusing because there's
Because
two
we
lots of
don't-
treated water. I was talking about
That's the,
the drinking town water, not the river water. And I said everyone's getting their head around that still. I can understand the river stuff, but
all the people camping there for the Cobb and Co, which I hope there's thousands, they're not gonna be worried about raw water.
No, but,
That's a good point, though.
the user group are worried about
But
the
they've
raw
got the,
water,
yeah,
because it was raw water that they couldn't turn on last night.
That's
It was a
correct.
major shoot this
so we've
weekend.
got
Maybe they need it.
10,000 gallon storage down at the,
maybe they need to swap the tanks, have the big tank for the.
but the 10,000 gallons, let me finish, is down at the bore, or down in the town that pumps the water up there for the sprinklers. But the user, the campers, they will need raw, treated water.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, councillor Edwards
This
and
might sound a
then
bit
Guthrie.
strange, but I'm just wondering about the word complex. Why is it a complex
that's what it's
user group?
called.
Is that what it's called?
Through
Oh,
the-
right,
there,
okay,
that's
Footing
it.
sorry.
complex, yeah.
Okay,
Just-
councillor Guthrie?
Yeah, I think the other thing to keep in mind, are we talking to her or just asking questions, Mr Mayor?
Yeah, this is questions. We've got to get to debate. Okay,
I do-
councillor
I
Hancock?
do agree, I think we just should be saying to benefit the user groups.
Yeah, that's what
they're
I
not called
think,
complex
yeah.
user groups.
Will it be-
They would be Waroo Sporting
Wooding
Complex.
Complex.
Waroo Sporting user group. It's not complex, it's Waroo Sporting
I thought that was
User
the name of
groups.
it or something.
user
Yep.
group.
That is,
Okay.
it's called the Roo Sporting Complex.
Okay, let's just
Yeah,
keep
no,
going.
but-
Is the second
Oh,
happy
yeah,
with that
yeah,
motion?
right.
Right, I don't know whether I've,
Users.
yeah, anyway, I've spoken. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Guthrie?
I did reflect on this driving home last night, and I'm very, very aware that that area is our disaster management site. So I think we can't lose sight of, we can't forget that should there be something that happens in Surat, we do need to have potable water, we do need to have water that's able to be used for drinking and for a human consumption. It's all very well to consider things like river water for the use of growing grass, but this is actually one of our evacuation sites, and I think it would be very short-sighted to just go, let's pump some river water up there, knowing or believing that should there be an emergency evacuation, we could have multiple people living up there for a period of time needing to be able to have drinking water, etc.
Okay, now, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor McMullen?
Man, I'd like to back up what Councillor Guthrie said, that's what I was trying to get over. I think we need more storage for the treated water.
Yep. Yep. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Hancock?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I support this because I think it's been a long-term bugbear for the user groups. And when this report comes back, I'll look forward to a bit of clarification about the difference between the potable water and the raw water, because it's two different lines. I've never known there to be an issue of not having the potable water when you can turn on the tap up there. So I'll look forward to having that clarification fully in the report, so we can understand exactly what needs.
Okay, does anyone,
question?
Councillor Ladbroke?
For Matt. So if Surat floods, so all the equipment there is above flood level to pump the water up the top? I know it sounds probably a silly question, but if it really floods at Surat, can we still get water up the top there
Can I take
to our, you know?
Can I take that one from you?
Yeah,
Matt?
absolutely.
So the treatment plan is generally above the flood level. However, we have built a plan B into that design, which we can pump water from the board directly up into the water tank. So, and everything there is well and truly above any sort of flood level. So we do have a plan B, but we shouldn't ever need to use that plan B, because it would be a catastrophic flood if it covers the treatment plant,
Okay.
which I guess, has happened in the past. But if it does happen, we can pump directly from the bore into the water tower. There is an overflow that we can run that water. We have to turn off 2 valves manually, and then we can pump directly from the bore up into the water tower and feed it into the town that way. So we can cut off that treatment plant entirely if we need
Yeah, and
to.
they'll just boil the water.
Yeah, so we have
If
got
it's
we have got a plan B. Well, it's
Yeah, good.
as Councillor Burkett said, it's probably pretty good water coming out of the bore.
Yep.
We
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
Thank you.
I'll sum up. In the motion, I don't actually say what water. I would imagine that the director, when he does his consultation, obviously potable water means you can do both. You don't want to get there and say, oh, this is raw water, and then we've got an emergency or whatever. So obviously, Matt, as a director, I think does a really good job of doing consultation. So I'm sure Director Matt will bring that back into a report for the new council, and look forward to it getting done for the festival. But of course, this is, as it's been said, this has been going on for years and we still haven't solved it. So if we can get it sorted, it'll be good from a disaster management point of view, which is always a concern for all councillors. On that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. We'll break back in half an hour. Great Artesian Spa Complex proposed changes to chlorination system. I would like to move that Council 1 receive and note the report, approve capital costs for the installation of new chlorination equipment and salt storage at the Great Artesian Spa Complex. 3, fund $4,700 for the storage from GL 06231.60 14 Parks and Gardens Capital Works, and 4, fund the balance of $5,880 for the new chlorination equipment from GL 06501.6014 Mitchell Pool Capital Works, and 5, in consultation with Bringa Action Group, explore the use of magnesium salt, or like if Bringa Action Group believe it's the best option, even though it might be dearer. And I'll speak to that why, because, yeah. Okay, do we have a seconder?
Second, Mr Mayor?
Yeah, Councillor Burkett. I'll speak to it. I was there actually at the meeting when they were talking about this, and the way I understood, there was standard, and I might be wrong, but the way that I understood it, there was standard salt, which is very cheap per tonne, but there was also one where they had magnesium mixed with the salt, and of course we know the health benefits of magnesium, so that could even be a great thing since there's more spa competition out in the west, for us to have magnesium in the water. So giving them an option to go whichever way they think, but because council pays for all the inputs, it could be something that if we have this in the motion, council's paying for it. And one of the things, I don't know what it says in it there, we're paying a huge amount at the moment for chlorine and that, and this is going to reduce it majorly. So having the option of that magnesium or just go straight salt, because to the director, I think they actually just talking about it was just a different product that had magnesium in the salt or something, so it worked the same. So very exciting. This is actually where your partner that looks after the council spa has got the contractors come up with this. And you may have remembered we've had multiple times where they have to clean the pool out, and it's major costs with black spot or whatever it is, things like that are happening. And this is actually trying to get on top of it, save costs, and not get in that situation again. So it's a win-win for everything, I believe. Councillor Hancock?
I just have a couple of questions.
Yeah, please go ahead.
My question is, if we approve this motion as it is today, that capital cost, that equipment can easily use either the normal salt or the magnesium salt that the mayor is talking. What my concern is I actually definitely think we should be looking down the magnesium, and I just don't want to approve something now without, unless we need to bring it back and have a look at the magnesium costs, that council can make the decision about the cost of the salt, because as you say, we pay for it anyway. Does the system can it be used for both, or will it be a different system if we go down the magnesium line?
I think this is a distinct system. So particularly the 5,880, which would be the chlorination equipment, I think that would be a different system to the magnesium system.
So that concerns me, Mr Mayor, because I do think we do need to look at the magnesium system. So I just wonder if we can get that, information either later on the table for later in this meeting or next week. We've got another meeting next week. because I would like to investigate that before we make that decision.
Just through the chair, the next week's meetings, the papers are actually due today. So potentially, you could recraft number 5 so that you certainly give yourself the wiggle room, because is obtain a report, from the Baringa, in consultation with the Baringa Action Group about the use of magnesium salt, and whether it can be used as part of the new equipment, the new system.
Well, do you have a question, Councillor Burkett?
It's probably
might be simple
191,
answer.
it does say about the mineral swimming pools, and it's got a magnesium-enriched water. Magnesium has been recognised, so it does speak about in that same information from the specialist. So it might be just a case of ringing them and seeing.
Yeah, I'm happy to lay it on the table.
Because it has to be done today.
Yeah, another question. We'll give you the question. So
Before we load them. Just a question about, just on page 177 and where we're getting the funding from, the proposed reallocation is for $4,700 from storage from the Parks and Gardens, which is currently 6%, with approximately $9,000. Why is that so low? Why haven't we used that budget in this year?
I think the guys have got a bit of work to do.
Because it's a capital work, so that I would think that all that budget is accounted for in capital work.
Yeah. I was trying to work out where they, what that was for as well, the 90,000 that was in there. So I'll have to do a bit more digging, but I'm sure we can make that amount of savings even on a capital project. Same as the swimming pool fund, we definitely know we're going to save more than that on the project.
Through you, Madam CEO, I'd appreciate an email or an update on why, what projects out of that $90,000 haven't been completed and might be completed, and are they being rolled over, and what's happening with those.
Through the chair, I think that's probably a lot of information to gather at once. Maybe it's the simple approach to that might be just saying is what is the balance of that capital, what's the project and what's the balance of that project? Because I'm looking at the way you've crafted the report, and I'm wondering whether what you mean is that the projected underspend is 6%, which will cover the cost of 4,700. That might be easy to find out that way.
Well,
If that
with all due respect,
works.
if that's the case, that's fine, but if it's not, I still would like to have the answers of what are the capital projects and why haven't they been spent, and are they being rolled over?
Through the chair, sure. We can try and get that information for you.
So I move that we lay this on the table for the director or through CEO to actually speak and clarify, is it just a different input product that we could use with magnesium, or is it a completely different system, and what's their recommendation from Baringa Action Group? Okay, all those in favour? 8-0.
Table's getting heavy.
And did I say for later in the meeting, did I say that?
It's laid on the table because it depends.
Yeah, lay it on the
if the
table.
information's not easy
For
to
later in the
source,
meeting. No, just about the,
I
speaking of
understand
Baringa
that.
Action Group.
Yep, the clarifying the inputs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what they recommend. Yeah, sure. This might be easy to get that as well. Yeah, page
you.
194.
13.3, pool asset replacement. Surat pool asset replacement. Do we have a mover? Councillor Ladbrook.
I'd like to move that council receive and note the report, and 2, endorse the purchase of a pump and lead lights to the total amount of $16,025 ex-GST to be sourced from savings from the Surat Pool First Aid Room project, work order 24524, as part of the 23-24 capital works budget.
Can I ask, I think it says in the report there it's going to come from a local supplier, is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have the submissions haven't been closed yet. They're still out for an RFQ, but I've got an indication of what the cost of the first aid room will be. But we are.
Oh, for the pump, I mean.
I'm not sure if I can actually, in an open, reveal that, but I'm following along normal procurement lines for that, Mr. Mayor. So.
Yeah, no, I thought I saw that somewhere.
It's on page 196.
I think, look, I guess through the chair, we went out locally. We went out to local suppliers and we've come back with a price that's reasonable.
It's sourced locally.
Yep.
Sourced locally, yeah. So not who it is, but just, you know, do you
Yep.
have a plan to use someone local for it?
That's correct. I'm happy to say that's correct.
Yep,
Yep.
righto. Okay, councillor Hancock?
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Director Matt, I'm just wanting to clarify, there's really it's two different things here. The purchase of a pump is a new capital project which is yet to be done, correct?
Correct.
But the actual upgrades to the LED lights, this is in retrospect, that's already been done.
That's
and now
correct.
we're coming to council to make it a capital project.
That's correct.
I'm
So,
just a bit concerned about that process because normally council, puts their capital projects in their budget and they endorse that expenditure. Whereas this is introspect of, we've made a decision, used maintenance money, and now we're coming to council. So I'm just confused.
no, that's fine. It's just the non-accounting policy there that's referenced. It's once it becomes over a $5,000 cost, then I'm able to capitalise that particular asset. So bulking it up, I'm able to, for both projects, I'm able to capitalise it rather than it come off the WRU operational budget, which actually affects my budget in the long run. If I'm start spending money on capital items, it actually affects my bottom line in the long run. So that's why I'm asking council today to capitalise those two items as per the non-accounting policy.
By joining them together.
Correct.
Get them over the $5,000.
Yep. And through the chair, if you wanted to journal from one side of basically from your maintenance budget across to capital, we'd normally do that as part of the budgetary reviews. And
Correct,
we
CEO.
won't have a budgetary review now until April.
Correct, for Q3, that's correct. Yep.
Okay, so we had a mover. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Edwards. Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
Thanks, council.
Just adjourn for a second. Inga Bay Bore Progress Report. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I would like to move that council, 1, receive and note the report, and 2, acknowledge this report partly enacts resolution 0M-09.2023-15.
Do we have a seconder? Do you have a question, Councillor Hancock?
A couple of questions. One of them is just the resolution that we're saying we enacted. It says that a report be prepared for the ordinary meeting on the 8th of November, listing all the primary stock. Did we get that report on the 8th of November?
No, through the chair, you did not.
Righto. And so we still haven't received that.
Yes, Chair, through the chair, that's right.
And that, so when you're saying that it's part of the report, it's the second point, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So also just a point of clarification, this isn't like Department of Resources funding, it's just that they've contracted to council to do this job, isn't it?
Through the chair, I believe
Like, it's not
actually,
funding round, it's that it's contracted
Mr Mayor,
to council.
through the chair, I do believe Department of Resources actually funded us to do the work. If you recall that the original motion was proposed by Councillor McMullen around the Yinga Bay Bore, and then as a part of the subsequent debate in council, you broadened the resolution. So we certainly recognise that the thrust of the original motion was around the Yinga Bay Bore, which we have done work to, and hence you've got a report that frames it that way.
My third question, Mr Mayor, is just in with the legislation and local laws policy section. We referenced the Local Government 2009 Act, but this is also, should we be referencing the Stock Group Management Act?
Sure, good to do that, yep.
Councillor McMullen.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, excuse me, we approved by resolution to do the solar thing at the Yinga Bay Bore or some time back there, so, yeah.
It's
so
probably November last year.
November, I can't remember, yeah, I think what date it was, but anyway, yeah. So that's been sitting for over 12 months with nothing working at all, so.
We just have the
Is it
region.
grant funding in that funding thing, or is it just funded by the department? It's not really a grant. We didn't apply for a grant or receive a grant.
Look, through the chair, our practice is that we normally apply to the Department of Resources by a due date every year, asking for grant funding in relation to a range of stock group infrastructure, and we've done that again this year.
Okay, now we had a mover. Do we have a seconder?
Yep. Did I say?
No,
Oh, that was the last one.
Yeah, councillor Burkett. Does anyone wish to speak to it? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Item 14.2, minor change to existing development permit, material change of use, undefined use, reference 2022/20698. I would like to move the,
I've got to,
please go ahead.
Mr Mayor. The item number is 14.2, the description, minor change of existing development permit, material change of use, undefined use, reference 2022-20698. I'm declaring councillor as myself, Councillor Ladbroke. The person of interest is a related party is my son's fiancée, Georgia Brown. Particulars of interest: Georgia is in charge of catering arrangements and staff at Western Queensland Spirits, and the declarable conflict of interest in the action I'll take is leave the room while the matter is being discussed and voted on.
Okay, any other conflicts? Councillor Ladbrook's left the room. As I said, I'd like to move that this lay on the table until councillors have all of the CRs in relation to the address and also feedback from residents in relation to their concerns before we decide this minor change. All those in favour?
The question, there's no time issue on this?
No, the applicant took some time to actually decide what they were doing, so we're well outside time on this one anyway, so there's no deemed approval risk on a minor change.
And through the chair, I noticed that you're talking about customer requests, but in a planning sense, we would have submissions. Did we have any submissions?
So minor change isn't publicly notified, so.
It's not publicly notified,
Yeah.
right? Okay, thank you.
Okay, all those in favour?
How long are we laying on table for?
To get the information and get the feedback, so.
You just want a summary of CRs, do you?
And also, hearing from, because, councillors do not know some of the CRs that I've put in, so I think you need to be aware of that and then obviously make your own decision.
So what a customer request got to do with a change of a DA?
I was going to bring that to council and it was suggested to put it in CR, so I think it's very important that you know the feedback of that before you make a decision.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, so you just get the information and then you're fully armed to make your decision. That was 8-0. Councillor McMullen?
Mr Mayor, these CRs
And if he could email
or the requests, are we going to do that in public or open?
yourself.
Discuss them or talk with soon.
Well, I think just get the feedback first, and then email back, and then we'll come back to a public meeting. So, okay, 8-0. Righto. Moving on.
7-0.
7-0.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Very good. 7-0.
Thanks, Kate. That was an easy one for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, where are we? Finished late, are we?
212.
No, we're still one more.
One on the back page.
One on the back.
17.1, security of regional community halls. I'd like to move that a report be prepared outlining the costs of an internal and external security cameras for the Amby Hall to the next meeting.
Now, Mr Mayor, I'm not disagreeing, but when you say for regional, are you gonna, is it just for that hall or for, because you got, after tense of a number of community halls recently request, so do you want to include all halls or just Amby?
Okay, well, I don't mind, but I know that there could be an issue, and it was suggested for
I
Amby.
totally.
So I don't mind broadening it, but I have got some information. I would like, so perhaps I'd just like to lay it on the table to later in the meeting to find out, I think we have the costings, but also to find out where it could be funded from.
Yes.
So lay it on the table till later in the meeting to find out where it could be funded from, if it's supported. All those in favour?
Sorry, I've got a question.
Yes, please, let's do the questions.
Just for the process of it, we're laying on the table to find out funding, will that change it from a councillor request for an agenda report that could just be brought back to next meeting? Or
Oh.
is that more is that, are you changing that, or are you
Well-
just gonna get that and do it at the next meeting?
Well, no, sorry, that's actually different than what I thought. So I will actually ask to do a motion, a notice without motion when we come back, okay, to change it. But this is just to get all the information so we have where to, from and all of that. Any other questions anyone had? Right, we'll vote, I'll move to lay it on the table later in the meeting to get that costing. All those in favour, 8-0. So we just need to know.
Yeah, and the
Council
source of
funding,
funding.
where? Okay, we have one late agenda item.
Two.
Two?
Two different,
Three, two.
well, we got
One's in post. Yeah.
two different
Yeah.
folders.
Okay, I mightn't have the other one.
Is it this one? Got the grey label.
Oh,
I
that
thought
one,
we,
okay.
Sorry, I
Okay, which is first, L1? Yeah. L1, OAP Accommodation Units, Ann Street, Mitchell. I'd like to move the council, one, seek expression of interest from interested parties in relation to the use of the 3 OAP accommodation units located on council reserve land in Ann Street, Mitchell. 2, select the best offer and enter into a 2-year licence at Peppercorn Rental to allow enough time for a social enterprise project to be developed by interested parties to make use of the buildings for temporary accommodation. Councillor Burke.
Just a quick, might have to get this, add this in, but BAG have the middle one. They don't, we handed that to BAG a few years ago.
Yeah,
So,
so is there only 2, is there?
So is there only two?
Only 2 of
Only
them,
two,
unless
okay.
BAG want to relinquish it, because
Yep.
what they were going to do sort of never come to fruition, so that it might just pay, they might hand it back.
Okay, so we need some wording in there to ask them.
Just put, Mr Mayor,
So
can we
it's got
just change?
3,
Change it.
use of
the
2,
use
and then
of
the third
accom-
one.
Just the
Or the
accommodation.
available
The
accommodation.
available.
But
yeah.
then maybe put another dot
Yep,
point,
and that's,
Yep.
contact BAG on the other.
Yeah, confirm bags in,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it'd be
Bag's
no good if
intention.
2 get done up and then the middle one's still
Yeah,
crappy.
Yeah, intention in relation.
So put 3, confirms BAG.
Commitment to the third, the middle cottage.
And would they like it to be part of a temporary accommodation solution?
Well, that was one of the things they did toy with. It was originally was going to be an art studio type thing, but there was a lot of issues.
That works well, Mr Mayor. You confirm BAG, they can say they want it or they don't want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do you think that understands, because we want to get moving on pretty quick,
Okay.
if that means that it could go in the trial, does everyone understand that?
For possible inclusion in the
Yeah,
trial or something
righto.
like that, as after the middle cottage.
Yeah,
Because if they say yay or nay, that will determine whether or not it
Yeah,
goes in.
right.
I'm happy to
phase 2 or
second it,
3.
Mr Mayor.
righto. Councillor Hancock?
Just a question, Mr Mayor, regarding processes. So we're seeking expression of interest, no problem, but then number 2, it says select the best offer. So is it the council, is it coming back to the council table to select the best offer?
Can we delegate it at all, CEO, or we can't?
Look, of course, through the chair, you could delegate to do that for us. We're in that unique period around caretaker about what you can and can't do. I think the aim of the resolution ahead is to be able to give a clear vision on what you want to do, what you're trying to do. So,
For open accountability for the community, it's a public, it should come back to the council table, so.
Just a background on, since we've been in council, and I remember Councillor Edwards and I couldn't believe it. First lot put in for $18,000 thinking they were getting $18,000 to remove it, so they pulled out. The next lot put in for 3 each, and then pulled out. And I remember Rob was saying at the time he was ready to hand them over.
Yeah.
So
In my opinion, if we get offered $1 from, let's give them for $1 and tell them to.
Because they're sitting there, nobody gives them.
But how do you select the best offer? That's my concern, is it's just a peppercorn lease, and so what it needs to be is a decision on the best offer to the community on what service is gonna be provided, and I just wonder if that should be a councillor strategic decision, not necessarily a
Sure.
staff member.
So through the chair, depending on what council wants to do, you could go either way. And looking at the timeline, even if you do a basic expression of interest, you'll still be coming back to potentially another council. So, but if you want to adjust any of the wording into, it's either delegate to the CEO or provide a report, because you'll have to. It's a procurement process, right?
For just leasing them, or can we delegate it? Because I'd be happy to delegate it just because we're leasing them, we're not selling them. We're not.
Sure. Look, through the chair, probably, I guess the back end of this is that they're in a poor state of repair. You have been through a number of procurement processes in relation to the units in the past. So, the public interest has been served in relation to that. It's really a case of trying to find out whether there's local interest in potentially a provider or other doing something with that accommodation. You might get no response to that expression of interest. But then it's about saying is, look, there's really no value in relation to the real estate, but it's really about giving someone enough time to develop a project that could be potentially considered by council, or they can actually do. There's a bit of work to be done with those units, and I think even if a provider was to look at them tomorrow, they would need time to actually work up some kind of project.
I think the only thing we haven't done is, like, I know they've been sitting here, we haven't done anything for 2 years on them, but we never did, option that for free for on the cost of removal to the whatever. But yeah, that's the only thing we haven't done. But
Look, through the chair, your expression of interest process might not yield anything, which might be then saying, oh, okay, what else can we do with these? Do we dispose of the assets or, whatever? That's certainly a consider for all of council's assets, especially your aged assets and assets we would say would be in poor condition. But I think the intention of this motion is to find out if someone's willing to do something with them in the short term, and then find a process to streamline that so that someone can work up a project that could be considered.
Yeah, fibro ones.
oh, pensions.
And they do have asbestos.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's the thing,
but they might, and I've had some interest from people in Mitchell that may actually deal with the asbestos and use them for temporary accommodation. So, no, just deal with it so they can use them.
It's not broken.
Yeah, and it could be crisis accommodation, and they might get onto it fairly quickly. So I want to put expressions of interest out to see who's interested. And then you're not losing the ownership of them. You're just saying, can someone use them?
Mr. Mayor, I think the best thing we can do is lose the ownership of them, get rid of them. because
Yeah,
it'll
but
be costing us-
They're not costing us anything. That's the trouble.
It would be depreciation.
But
But you've got some
quickly,
challenges at the
it's
moment
about
to do
crisis
that.
accommodation.
Yeah.
Councillor Hancock.
Mr Mayor, so yeah, once again, I don't have a problem, we're just trying to find the best
Yeah.
solution here. But I'm thinking that we are limiting, maybe expressions of interest by already suggesting that we're gonna enter into a 2-year licence at Peppercorn. A 2-year licence might not be actually enough time for, if it was me, I'd be going, oh, hang on, if I'm gonna spend some money on these cottages and we're gonna put income in it, I might not want 2 years and I want a surety of 5 years. Do we have to be so specific about the 2-year licence? Maybe we can take that out and that could be part of the expression of interest.
That's right, through the chair.
Let's give some options of how we rate an expression of interest when it's going to be a peppercorn thing.
Yep.
You've got to have some ideas.
Sure.
So I'm thinking that's too specific. Let's let that come in the expression of interest.
Right,
Yes.
so instead of a 2-year licence,
Just remove
put,
it. Yeah, remove the term.
Andrew and a licence for a peppercorn.
Yep.
Councillor O'Neill.
I apologise that you may have already covered this at the school assembly, but the NDIS provider that has approached you, is it in their remit to provide temporary accommodation?
No, but they have the ability to do it. They have builders and that to do it. So it might be
Like a social enterprise
right,
project.
and they've been
It
talking.
wouldn't be for clients of the NDIS
No,
to
no.
use accommodation. This is
and they could facilitate it quite economically to get it to happen. So,
Mr Mayor, would you be amenable to maybe tweaking it around a little bit and saying, seek an expression of interest from interested parties, which is to allow a possible social enterprise project to be developed? Put that
For
in
temporary
there.
accommodation,
Then
if we're
number
looking.
two
you want-
become
or-
delegate to the CEO for her to determine the length of time and the rental and all that, because then we're basically acknowledging that there's there's a number of units there that have been sitting there for a period of time, unused, deteriorate. I mean, we've all in agreement that we've tried to do our best to have a whole range of different options. We now know that there's a bit of a nibble of, there's a bit of interest in something. Maybe we pass it over to the CEO at this particular point in caretaker to say, you're very aware of the circumstances and what we feel, and if there's something that can happen in Mitchell that's going to benefit the people of Mitchell, let's do it. Because the buildings are sitting there unused and just deteriorating.
happy to have that, but I do think it needs peppercorn because we all know the state of the building, so we wouldn't be looking for, I don't believe any rent, we just want
If we can tweak it around a little
Yeah,
bit.
but I'm happy with the rest of it. Yeah.
So would you, I mean, in a practical sense, this term of council can keep meeting up until, well, the 16th of March. I mean, if something was to come back in that timeframe, we've had multiple special meetings across the last 4 years on singular issues. Why not have it that if it does transpire that it happens between now and the 16th, then we're talking about a half-hour special meeting or something like that to consider it as a council.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, but I think there could be an opportunity and hopefully they could make it happen pretty quickly, so. So what have we got on there then? So councillor Guthrie, does that make,
Seek an expression of interest from,
Interested parties.
I don't like the interested parties, I just think it needs to be from, community.
Or, through the chair, you could
community.
completely delete that if you wanted to, because you're seeking expression of interest from the public,
Yeah.
so.
So they're
but it
interested
is the
in-
public, it
Yeah.
might not be
Yeah.
a community group
So
necessarily.
from the public, yeah, in
Yep.
relation to the use of the all of that's fine. To allow the potential development of a social enterprise project. To add a peppercorn rental.
Yep.
Um,
And then you were going to go delegate
and you're
to the
really
CEO
not
to do
specifying
what?
that it's going to be
Something.
temporary accommodation, you're basically saying, you're leaving it open because regardless of, I mean, we know what the intention obviously implicit in this is, but we're saying if somebody can see some sort of use for it, let's go with it, and then delegate maybe number two to the CEO or delegate.
Yeah, but we could, as I said, could come back
Maybe
to a
an
council
appropriate
meeting.
agreement, because again, it mightn't be a licence, it mightn't be a lease, it might be a management agreement
Yeah,
or
to bring
something.
back, yeah, that's
Who
right,
knows?
to negotiate an appropriate agreement to be brought back to council for consideration.
And then we need three because
And then
they
you need three,
may
because
be,
Green Action Group have already got the middle
Yeah.
page
they
that
may
we know.
want to throw it in as part of the deal.
Yep,
Sorry, do it up.
okay.
Okay, so I'm happy to move this. Are we just starting in the red? Okay, seek expression of interest from the public to allow for a potential development of a social enterprise project at Peppercorn Rental. Two, delegate to CEO or delegate to negotiate an appropriate agreement to be brought back to council for consideration.
Authorise the CEO
Oh.
delegate to
Yep.
negotiate.
Authorise the CEO or delegate to negotiate an appropriate agreement to be brought back to council for consideration. And three, confirm Bringer Action Group intention for the use of the middle cottage for possible inclusion in the trial dependent on their response.
Shouldn't three be either one or two? Shouldn't you be doing that before we negotiate an appropriate agreement?
Yeah, it should be
Yeah,
one.
Like
number
it should
two,
be
yeah.
I'm
first,
happy to
then
swap it around.
What was it, sorry again, I missed that, what's that about?
Oh, they took ownership.
Actually,
of that,
we've given
a couple of
back
years
the
ago.
middle one,
On that middle one?
yeah, but they haven't done anything with it.
Okay.
Workhampton.
And is this
Nah.
the other thing is this a trial, or is this, like, why we're saying trial? possible inclusion, full stop? Like what's a trial?
Yeah, through the chair, you could actually say that for possible inclusion, because it isn't necessarily a
It's
trial.
not a trial.
Could be a long-term project, they could be a partner.
Righto.
Um,
So I'm happy with possible inclusion, depending on their response. Okay.
I can't remember I'm happy to second if it's not seconded. I am the
Yep.
seconder.
You happy with that? Okay, I just will speak about this. This is an opportunity. These have been vacant. Obviously, they're not in great condition. But if you get the right builders and they know what they're doing, and we've got people that are interested in doing this, we might get some accommodation out of it, and it's very difficult at the moment. So let's put our best foot forward, and I'll be supporting the motion. Does anyone else wish to speak? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. So is this L2 then?
yes.
This report, has everyone got L2?
No, no.
Yeah, L2, grave maintenance and subsidence issues. I'd like to move that council receive and note the officer's report as presented. I've got a question. Is there any direction you need from council at all, through to the director, about any of the issues or any motions that you need, or do you think that you've got it covered?
Mayor, I think with respect to what's presented in the report around the immediate actions that we'll take from an operational point of view, that's what we'll intend to do, and I'm not sure I need anything further necessarily.
Have we got, because what was requested was even an interim cemetery maintenance plan around that area. Well, these are obviously all the issues, but have we got that it's going to happen each week? They're going to check the any subsidence and reduce the amount of water. Or is there anything that we need to do from that, or is it going to happen weekly, or like as in the maintenance plan? Or
Yep. So operationally, that's the expectation, and that's what we've set out to the staff. Our expectations based off the issues that we've encountered.
Right.
So that's been already conveyed very firmly with staff on our expectations on subsidence and watering controls and access to that. We've discussed that to length.
Righto. Okay, Councillor
Mr.
McMullen.
Mayor, through you to Director Dean and Supervisor Andrew. Obviously, this is all revolving around Anne's request, and that the crux of this is you're going to divert the water away from laying there, isn't it?
Yes.
From laying in front of those plimps and that.
Yeah.
That's the whole guts of the story, to stop the water pooling there. That's increasing the subsidence is normal, but it's being it's happening more and more now because of the water laying there.
So there'll be a few things. So it'll be improve the drainage at that point, put some more, oversight on the watering allocation, and then also improve the soil quality because there is a lot. It's quite clay, so it pools really badly, and it also restricts grass growth because of the poor quality soil. So those three are the main targets for us.
So Councillor Hancock, then Guthrie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Is there actually a cemetery maintenance plan?
Not written up specific to the cemetery that is fully developed and gone through the whole process. So no.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to second this with the addition of number 2, develop a cemetery maintenance plan.
Through the
Well,
chair,
we've already got a motion for one to come back.
Just through the
but
chair, I think in your through the chair, in your last meeting, I think you actually did something very similar. You did actually
we already
put
did
that
it, but this was
through.
hopefully an interim
happy to-
measure.
Righto.
Yeah.
I'm happy to second it anyway.
Mr. Mayor, my question maybe is just to get a sense that this is just localised to one particular area of the cemetery, that we're not going to have there's not the possibility for others, other graves to be in a similar situation, or, so is this just localised as one little corner, row 18?
Currently, this specific issue has been. The cemetery overall has a lot of historical, I suppose, challenges around levels and all sorts. So the main issues right now are here. There's also the least amount of grass growth in this location. Once that grass comes up, we really do eliminate a lot of these issues anyway. But certainly this is probably one of the major issues. However, there is ongoing issues and future beams that are planned through council projects that will repair some of these issues.
Councillor McNaught.
That's what I was just going to ask, Mr Mayor, through you. This initial work is going to resolve the problem that's around and between the plimps at the moment, but I would hope that council look at the rest of that side in the longer term before we start building any more plimps.
Okay, just on that, I think we should, because we haven't actually got an actual plan back. We've got all the issues, and just for councillors' benefit, I attended with the resident out there, and the way I look at it is clay or reactive soil, no water is going in, so it's sort of overwatering of the sprinklers because there's not loam for it to go into, so everything. In fact, we think it was 2 days later, the water is still pooling there, so it's just probably chronic overwatering, not necessarily for what you would normally do, but if you've got soil that doesn't have anything going in, it is a lot of water. So I think, and that has been like one of the big problems is that. And then secondly, obviously the drainage, and that will be a way to solve it, to get it to drain away from where the graves are. But one of the big things is, and we're just putting too much water on the site, and people can't even walk around 2 days later to look for their loved one's grave. So it's just too much water considering the area that it is. I think we should have point 2, which is
through the chair, could that be something like note the improvements in drainage, water monitoring and soil quality?
Well, I think it should be, well, it could, but I would like to say that that we confirm that reduced watering will happen on the site, so there will be no pooling of water. No pooling of water.
And it's already in the report, Mr Mayor.
It is, but we have loved ones looking at this, and I think we should have something will occur on the site. And the other, which I think will solve a lot of it, and that there is, in point 3, plans to drain away from the grave site the water, because the overseer made it very clear that the drainage is not going the right way and it's going on there. So,
Mr. Chair, could we just put point 2, implement the various measures that are noted in the report, because it actually has a really detailed list of all that stuff.
righto.
Which
Yep.
might just make it.
It's public, isn't it?
And it's a public report,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so it would be number 2, implement the various measures.
Councillor Guthrie.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to suggest that we actually formally respond with an apology to the effect. When I read the passion and the emotion that came through, even with the email last night, I think we should be formally providing an apology and suitably acknowledge that the concerns have been treated. I think there needs to be something as a formal correspondence.
I agree with that, and that should be
In
in the
there.
resolution.
Yep.
To ensure that it's there, because I think we are dealing with the matter and it's being noted and there's measures in place, but the emotion that has been attached to the whole matter, I think it needs to be acknowledged, and then a sincere apology formally presented.
I'm happy to put that in the motion. I have actually apologised as mayor, but if you would like to do it as council, very happy with that as well.
Written in the resolution and a letter sent.
Yeah.
So the rose garden is irrigated, and the lawn's irrigated. And so we're irrigating too much. Is this what's, I mean, we've obviously had.
Yeah, yeah.
For the
you know,
soil
significant-
type
right,
that's there,
for the
for the
soil
soil
type, yeah.
type.
Clay.
that's
And
it.
the slope.
We have now scarred that irrigation pattern.
We have. Some of the challenges also is that like it's quite difficult because the rose garden isn't a sprinkler system; it's a dripper sort of system. So you still need to have that secondary irrigation
Yeah.
doing its job, and it is a lawn cemetery, so there is definitely a goal to get like. Ultimately, if the drainage was correct, we should be able to get to a point that it should be a similar amount of water that's even been on it if once our civil repairs have been conducted. The major issues have been around the drainage and the soil conditions. So if we improve those two things, ultimately the goal is a nice, level, well-draining turf. So we need to get to that stage. We're a long way off that at the moment. We couldn't just throw turf on top of the current problem, or it would just happen again. So it's just addressing those issues via this plan.
Something's led to this. I mean, it just hasn't happened overnight. There are other graves along this particular section of the lawn cemetery.
There's only 2 graves there at the minute, though.
That's what I thought, and a couple, but
But in and around it, it can't
yeah,
just be one.
but the ones where we're talking about is, correct me if I'm wrong, is the first one from the rose garden, and the water's lying between the rose garden and the first plinth.
Oh, I see.
There are other people buried on the other side
Yeah.
of that same plinth, but it's
Yeah.
not affecting them.
Because of the drainage that you're talking about.
The lack of it, just building up against.
And you've got to be careful you don't fix that problem and send water somewhere else. And the only thing too, like if it was a bad situation, you had to put a gully pit or something, you're going out to an area that's flat outside too. Like that's not helping you.
I think the idea is from this report is to head it to Crystal Street. Crystal Street has a big drain, so it comes right from up near the railway dam originally, right through. So.
But the drainage is right when we have weather events. We shouldn't be overwatering the lawn cemetery with irrigation to cause drainage issues. We should be only watering enough to keep the lawn alive.
Automation.
No, but does it have a sensor, rain
automation.
sensor? No, see, the rain sensor, once that dries out, that indicates when it's right to water usually, but if sometimes they don't use it.
But we've got people in and around there all the time that could make that judgment.
No,
by
it's
sight.
automated, they just leave it. Timer.
Sure.
Okay.
I think they
Righto,
can
so we
work out
we
how
should
to do
keep
the
going,
lawn.
but it is, in my opinion, it's a massive overwatering for the area where nothing goes into the soil. That's the issue.
When you're just going to build that up in the area, raise it.
Basically, we've done a survey. We know we can get grade from the internal road.
You're just going to go over the
Crystal
top.
Street.
You don't have to dig it out or anything. Just
There may be like a minor
Yeah.
digging out, but it's just about getting that grade
getting
right
the fall.
across
That's
the
right.
board.
Exactly. I agree,
Yes, and then there'll be other things in the maintenance plan that I could probably get conveyed in the future when we get to that point as well on how we manage some of these
The
issues.
pop-up system on the irrigation, Andrew, it's just not a tap timer, it'll be an electronic system, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
That-
So
That it could be, is it run by an app?
yeah, no, it's run by an irrigation controller out the front of the cemetery. So it's set like it is set for I think it's 45 minutes of watering at midnight. So it's just an automated system, and it's twice like 3 times a week or once every second day sort of thing. So that's how the system's been set up.
Main home will shine.
Yeah, but these systems now, you can have the controller on your phone, and so that's what I'm saying, if people are, oh, it's rained, and we've got someone responsible for that area, turn it off. You know, like, unless it's a 2-other system that it isn't connected by Wi-Fi to your phone or whatever.
That isn't too much of an issue. We do manage that, but that's probably not the issue that has caused this. It was the initial incident has been where we actually had watering not set up right either. That was tweaked, but there's still been errors occurring. So there's been a few controls put over that, which I've put in the notes there around making sure that the right people are using that controller, there's the right access, and then we're also installing a manual valve. So there's a few controls we can put in there when there's been a rain event or whatnot. But inevitably, if it rains on a Saturday night, and it's scheduled to water on the Saturday night, it's not something you would expect that a staff member is able to control. So there is those possibilities that could take place still.
My question is, do we have the right people or person or people in charge of that?
Well, as approved staff.
Yes,
Approved staff, but are they the right person? Not-
Well, that's not
That's
our,
their-
that's the
them to do
CEO's
that,
department.
To make sure it's right.
But did you say it's on for 45 minutes
Yeah,
every time?
midnight.
yes, that has been dialed back.
3 nights a week, I thought.
That
you
is
said.
massive.
Not every
amount of
night,
water.
Carson.
No, but there is no seepage into the
Oh, I
ground. So
understand.
that's 45 minutes of big sprinklers going is a lot of water. So hopefully we can dry it out for a couple of weeks and let it just dry out and start with 10 minutes or something, because I think you'll find it'll still be very good, you know.
Especially coming in the cooler months.
You know.
And maybe the other thing, for what it's worth, the experts say not to water in the middle of the night. You need to go earlier to the dawn, because you heighten the risk, particularly out here. I don't know what the type of lawn is out there, if it's Kikuyu, but that putting it to bed wet is you increase the chances of lawn grubs.
So I think there might be 16 zones or 8 zones, but they would finish early-ish
Oh, I
by the
see.
time the first one starts.
Yeah.
And
all
it's
the way through.
hard. You can't have them
You
during the
can't run
day
them all
because
at once.
people go to visit their loved ones, or you got a funeral. So I can understand why it's
And
on.
45 minutes is for not one area, it's to do the whole zone.
No, per circuit.
That's per zone.
Per circuit.
Into clay where there's no grass for most of it. That's the problem. And there's no loam for it to soak into. So it is way being overwatered, in my opinion.
Anyway, I'm sure. they'll
Okay,
sort it.
so, that I'd like to move the council receive and note the officer's report as presented. 2, implement the various measures outlined in the officer's report. 3, write to the resident on behalf of council to apologise for the distress caused and to confirm actions council will undertake to address the issue.
I'll second that.
Oh, I think councillor Hancock already did.
Okay.
This one, the one before.
Excellent.
So is councillor Hancock okay with that?
Yeah, it's fine. It says that council write to the resident on behalf of council.
Oh, apologise, sorry, it needs to be apologise on behalf of
That
council,
council write to the resident to apologise
on behalf of council.
I'll just think with Edwina on the amendments.
Would we need that in there?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
But if you put it in brackets, Kel, that then says that it's like a subset of that idea.
Second is happy with that. Does anyone wish to speak? I'll speak to this. This has been an extremely upsetting situation for the resident, and I'm very sad that it's happened. I think we're getting to the bottom of it now, which is just massive overwatering, not if it was turfed area, and with really draining soil, but it's completely the opposite. So there is nowhere for the water to go. So I would like to see 10 minutes at the most, maybe even 5 minutes would be to get it back to a normal level, and the area would probably do better. So, because people cannot even go and visit their loved ones because they've got clay on sticky reactive soil on their shoes, and could fall over and injure themselves. So I really think the watering is sort of out of control for the conditions. It's probably fine in other areas, but it's just too much. So hopefully we're getting to the bottom of it. Council's got this motion. If it's supported, I think this will be a big step, and I would hope that there is some peace for the resident having to deal with the loss of a loved one. Okay, does anybody else wish to speak? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour, 9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, gents.
We don't need the answers for these to go back to. So we can
Just, through the chair, I'm not sure
We'll
about
just
the
adjourn for a minute and we'll find out.
Yep.
amendment of resolution CWA AMBI agreement. Councillor McMullen.
Mayor, I'd like to move that council, one, note and endorse the Amby Spinning Yarn Information Hub in Amby. Two, endorse the use of the hall for the project and offer a new management agreement to the Amby QCWA branch and document responsibilities at peppercorn rates. Three, advise the committee that provisions of access to the hall by vehicles must comply with all conditions of the Department of Transport Main Roads, Queensland. Four, advise the community that provisions of food from the hall must comply with the provisions of the Food Act and regulations. Is that it? Yeah.
Okay, is the seconder happy with that?
I'm happy with that, Mr Mayor.
Yeah.
Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Mr Mayor, I think it's a good thing that we helping sort this debacle out with a few of the local residents interfering up there.
Councillor Burkett.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I fully support Councillor McMullen's words there. Yeah, I think moving forward, and especially really good timing that we can get this sorted out before the tourist season, because it's been out of action for a number of months and it's not good for anyone's state of mind. And I applaud these ladies' fortitude for sticking with it. They've showed a ton of courage through all this process, so wish them all the best.
Okay, we'll just pause for a second. Count speak. Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0.
So we're also ready to discuss the SPA, which is on page 175.
175.
Oh, sorry.
Item number?
It is
13.2.
13.2.
13.2, Great Artesian Spa Complex proposed changes to chlorination system. Okay, Director, you've got some information for us about that?
Yes, I've just forwarded through the information from Jeff. He just sent the email then. So it's got basically says that system can be used for any sort of salt. The 4,700 was coming from a toilet block that was supposed to go into the Memorial Park. Went out for quotes. The cheapest one was 135, so we'll have to roll that project and ask for some more money next year. So we can't do it for the 90 grand basically. So we'll have to seek further funds next year if we want to go ahead with that project. Yeah, so that's where that's coming from. The 5,880. So with the kiosk upgrade project at the swimming pool, rather than just going out as a bulk tender for the entire thing, we've split it up into the carpentry, the plumbing, painting and that sort of stuff. So the plumbers are going to be doing the plumbing, our local plumbers are going to be doing the plumbing work. So there's quite a bit of savings in splitting the project up rather than handing the whole project over to a contractor who will then subcontract all that stuff. There's just a fair few savings in that.
How much through the chair?
Well, we expect to save at least 20,000, but we'll probably be asking if we can move 10,000 of those savings to maybe some heating at the pool. But we can't do that until we've kind of made sure we've got all of that sort of, at least $10,000 worth of extra savings on top of that. But we'll come back to council if we, when we've completed that project.
So, we realise we can use any salt with it.
Yes.
So they could use magnesium, but
Yes.
they're just keen to keep going with the normal salt, are they?
Yeah, they said that their marketing was more reliant on that they were using artesian basin, spring water, rather than the magnesium water. So that their marketing strategy's more aligned with that, artesian water and the benefits of that rather than magnesium.
Righto, so we don't need 5 then,
Okay,
really.
that's all right, good.
Drop that off. Right, Councillor Burkett, you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy with that, Mr Mayor.
Okay, well, I think I spoke to it. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Burkett?
Mr Mayor, I think this is it's an awesome result, actually. I think it's great that the BAG are taking the initiative to look for better ways to improve the facility, and it's a council asset which helps us, but also the saving of potentially $26,000 a year, that's enormous, and maybe we can find some ways to put it back into the centre, or if the new council so wishes to do so. But I think this is great, and also the safety aspect, I think, for not only the community but for the workers as well. So I think this is good. Takes away a lot of that potential inconsistencies and failures in the pump shed with dosing. So it's a win-win all around. So I take my hat off to Jeff and the BAG committee.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Yeah, I'll sum up. You know, this is a classic case of how people that work with council, manage a council asset, are actually finding savings for council as well as improving their operations. So more power to it, and certainly be supporting this motion. All those in favour? 9-0.
Okay.
Righto, then we'll just go into closed. Do we have someone to move?
So it's the only one to come back to
Is
now.
the 11.2 the risk?
14.2? We didn't do 14.2?
It's 14.2?
Oh, no, that's not coming back today.
Through the
Oh.
chair, yes, we can do 14.2. Through the chair, we can do
Just need time to
14.2.
read
Here. Through the chair, we have circulated a summary. Whether that's enough for you, that's up to council to decide.
We should go back to what was moved, because I was hoping to actually get comments from people that are in the area that have had issues.
That's what we have here.
We've got that.
Yeah, but comments about this MCU, like how would this affect them, you know? Because we've got their comments about the last thing, but not about, like, since it's been operating, they're the comments. But we haven't got anything about this MCU, unless we've talked to them.
Through the chair, would council like to ask the manager of planning just to see whether we have some of those comments, just to assist you, or
Are
it's up to you?
Are you asking or suggesting that there's been complaints since the
Correct.
application's put in?
Complaints since it's been operating?
Yeah, no, but since the new application's gone in?
No, but I don't think they would know about it,
No.
because there's no public consultation.
Mr Mayor, with, Mr.
That's right,
Well,
we've got a
that's
conflict, yeah,
good,
sorry.
good point.
So-
We're actually talking about something on hold, but yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, let's leave that so you don't have to go anywhere. And, but people got to read it anyway. But let's have a look. We'll pull up what the actual motion was. Now, do we have someone to go into closed?
Through the chair, it's actually a decision motion, yeah.
We're not doing that now, are we?
No.
It's still laid on the table, through the chair.
Councillor O'Neill.
Move
Yeah.
in accordance with the provisions of section 254J3 of the local government regulation 2012, the council resolve to close the meeting to the public to discuss confidential items that its council consider is necessary to close the meeting. In accordance with section 254J5 local government regulation 2012, the following table provides the matters to be discussed, an overview of what is to be discussed when the meeting is closed. C1, nomination of projects, disaster ready fund round 2, 24-25. C2, request for sponsorship. C3, resumption of rate sale of land update. C4, request for waiver of fees. 11003688. C5, exclusion from Roma landfill waste facility. LC1, budget amendment of 2023-24 capital works program, Campbell Park reservoir replacement and Roma airport water main upgrades.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. All those in favour? 9-0.
Page 78.
7018.
You got the title there. Uh, 11.2, risk register and risk appetite statements. Do we have a mover for this one?
Councillor Ladbrokes and seconded Councillor Edwards. It wasn't voted on at that time, it was then laid on the table.
Councillor Ladbroke, did you want to defer this for a decision for the new council, or did you want to go ahead with
No,
that
no,
now?
we'll wait to the new council.
Righto, do you want to just change that wording, just put something in front?
Well, don't adopt the risk management appetite statement.
Just,
I'll find it for you.
yeah, just through the chair, defer the decision on the risk appetite statement to a
Mover will have
future.
to move that they're withdrawing. The
Yep.
seconder will have to agree. It'll have to be put to council to do
Yeah.
that, but then have that subsequent resolution. Because this is a total change. It's not an amendment. Under our standing orders, once it's a mover and a seconder, then it's owned by the chamber. And so if the mover moves to withdraw and the seconder agrees, then it's put to the council.
Do you want to do it that way, councillor Ladbroke?
That'll be fine, what Kel's put there.
No, you got to withdraw.
Yeah, the council defer.
No, you got to withdraw it first.
So if you wanted to, just move to withdraw the motion.
11.2, so we withdraw 11.2 from.
No, this motion, just this motion of council.
So essentially it's been laid on the table, so it comes back as it is. If you want to withdraw this motion because you don't want to move the motion any longer, then that council withdraw the motion and then vote on it. Move it and second it and then vote on it. The draft
So
motion.
then we'll put a
Councillor
new
Radcliffe?
motion up, because this motion is going to be pretty different to the original motion.
Okay, so just that council withdraw the draft motion.
Do we have a seconder for that?
Mark, second.
I'll agree.
Righto, so that's the motion, that's what we're going to vote on.
Edwards, yeah.
Removing the motion,
Yep.
withdrawing the draft motion. All those in favour? 9-0.
Yep.
Okay, and now councillor Ladbroke, did you want to move what you had there?
Yep, I'd like to move that council defer a decision on the matter until the new term of council.
Do we have a seconder? Oh, well, Mark did, but it's a new motion. Well, councillor Burkett had his finger up. So does anyone wish to speak? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, moving on. What else do we have?
14.2, 203.
Thank you.
I'm out for that.
And that's the planning.
Righto. Well, 14.2, minor change, existing development permit, material change of use, undefined use, reference 2022/20698. I would like to move, please go ahead. I would like to move that this lay on the table until we have heard comments in regards to this minor change application from affected residents in the area.
I thought we got the list.
Yeah, but no, they haven't talked about this application. That is older. That's all of the older stuff.
So through the chair, are you asking for a deputation from?
Or just really to make them aware of this, because we haven't gone out to community consultation, and just say, what is your feedback about this?
So is
So
that,
they can be heard.
So we want to notify the residents in relation to the development and
Yeah,
then
the minor change application.
give them an opportunity for feedback, but is that just written feedback?
Yeah, it can be written, or if they can,
Deputy.
but written.
Can we do that? Because this is somebody else's development application, we don't have to go out.
There's no requirement to.
No
notify.
requirement to
There's
do.
no requirement to, but legally, can we go and ask community? Or-
It's a public, an application is a public document, so the community can be made aware of an application.
So,
And we can seek feedback.
so through the chair, are you trying to consult with adjoining landowners or is it local residents? I'm just trying to think of them.
Well, residents that have raised an issue in the past, and there's not many of them, but it's giving them, getting their feedback about
Okay.
this. There could be suggestions, slight tweaks.
Yep, sure.
It could be any
There's
of
only one
them.
resident there, wasn't there?
No, there's no more. That's what we've found
I
out.
was of the opinion one resident over the road never raised any issues before.
Yep.
Now they changed their mind.
No, I don't think they knew about it, but this is a new minor change. So you got the CRs about the general information about operating, but this is actually just getting some feedback and it could come back to the next meeting. So,
My question with the CRs is, it's all well and good to have the list of CRs. We need to know what the outcomes were of the CRs. Like, did our staff do anything about it? Have we, you know what I mean? Like, we probably need to have a discussion on this because we can see the issues, but we don't know, they might have already been sorted out. We don't know.
There's
No.
only 2 CRs relating to it, though.
Out of that lot, yeah. But
So-
there must be more.
but there was someone that raised it in the beginning when we had the first application as well as. So all I'm saying is it's good to make a decision when you've got all of the facts and you've got the feedback from affected residents.
And
Councillor Taylor.
So, through you, Mr Mayor, so Kate, they don't have to put up, you know how sometimes you have to put up a thing that, you know, it's
Not
gonna-
for a minor change, no.
They
So they
don't
did
have
on the original application,
not
but
on
not
this
for a
one.
minor
Yeah,
change.
okay.
So anyway, I've moved that to,
And just to be sure that we're bringing you back, because you're laying it on the table, right? So what we'll do is be contacting residents and telling them that there is an application, a minor change application that's going through. They'll give us feedback in whatever form that is. It's not coming back to a briefing, it'll come back to another future meeting.
yeah, and I
future
think
meeting.
making them aware so they can see,
Yep.
for instance, what is the minor change and they might
This
go,
is going to be for the next council.
Sure, yeah,
well, it could be the meeting next
If I'm going
week.
to get any
Yeah.
answers back in a week.
Well, there's not a lot of people you've got to talk to. There's only
Yep.
a couple, so.
And if you're pretty.
And
if
it's
we
an
can get
open
that feedback
document,
simply.
so it's not hard to get it.
Okay. Do you want it to come back to the next week?
Yeah,
meeting?
well, I think so, yeah. I think there's not many people you've got to ask. Okay, all those in favour of laying on the table to the next meeting? All those against? 7-2 if I can call for a division.
6-2.
6-2?
That's right. and,
Good point.
Who was
If I can
against?
call for a division. Councillor Ladbrook's got a conflict, he's out of the room.
No, that's fine. Division.
Yes, please.
Oh, mate, are you right, mate?
Oh, really,
Just sit back, relax.
Councillors, for consistency, do you want me to contact all submitters on the original application as well as the customers that have raised complaints, or are we only seeking advice from the
Yeah, I think
submissions
so.
against?
You might just.
Are there many?
So there, well, from memory, I think there was 9 or 10 submissions on the original application, but 8 were in support and 1 was against.
Yeah,
And then we've had one customer since
change them all.
who wasn't a submitter, who's now got concerned. So do you want me to notify everyone, or is it just you?
So if we went to that 12, would that?
So the
Yeah.
same people, I think it should be,
I-
because there's more in support of it, or
Yeah,
was more
yeah.
in support of it back then.
But can I just ask a question? Is it because the business has ramped up, which is good, so it's changed in the fact that it's more successful, there's more functions, and as opposed to when it first started, so people mightn't had an idea how it was going to be, but now they do, or?
So the original application was for, I think, 30 events. Hang on, I do have it in the report. This will help. Yeah, so the original application was from 7 till 7 with up to 30 events per year operating until 11:30 p.m. Our conditions then went, you can have 20 events on a Friday, Saturday or Sunday until 11 p.m. because that's consistent with what Morelands had. And then the rest of the week they were 7 till 7. What they have asked for, I guess, is slightly more than their original application and slightly less, so more events but shorter hours. So they've now asked for keeping the 20 on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday till 11, but then having an additional 20 per year till 9 p.m. on a Monday to Thursday.
So it is a change for the neighbours if they've got into a
An
routine.
extra 20
And
minutes.
it's
Yeah.
wholly contained within the distillery and the cellar door.
Yeah.
It's not the same as what it is on the weekend.
No, so it's not weekends where they're out on the grass. We want to keep the
Internal.
midweek stuff contained within the building.
Is there a potential, through you, Chair, Kate, so is there a potential for the owners to come back and put their views forward? I mean, or is it already in these documents? You know, if we're getting additional information from this side, what about the other side? That's, you know, just to make it fair.
But you'd also have to let them know that it's within the cellar doors too. Like, it's not gonna be outside making a hell of a racket.
Yeah, I'd just like to hear, you know. Full story, yeah.
Just for councillors' benefit, the feedback has been that the noise at night time travels so far. So you literally can hear all of the conversations word for word across the road. And because it is so quiet at night time, right? And so if people had a few and swearing and whatever, you hear all of it. And the other thing was the light, the feedback about the light. Now, I don't think anyone's meaning to do that, but it's just one of those factors that is.
So were they told about the light though? Was Will?
Well, that's what the CRs, and it would be things.
They've been notified about the light, and they have made some changes, and I believe they are also working to make further changes to redirect all that lighting to address all of that.
Fix it.
Yes.
So just so we're clear, the approval as it currently stands as of today, that a majority of council agreed to, was that they open between 10 and 11 on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays.
Yep.
All they're asking for now is to open between Mondays and Thursdays within the confines of the building between 10 and 9.
Yep.
Only
An
for
extra 2 hours a day.
20 times a year.
For an extra 20?
Yep.
But they're not asking to amend the days that you're suggesting there's an impact.
No.
It is what we've already, as council, has agreed to.
No, but it's more impact because it'll happen for more days
No,
now.
it won't, because they're not gonna be outside.
No, but there's more cars, there's more traffic. It's definitely got an impact. It mightn't be the same as the ones outside, which might have more travel, but there is more impact. Now, whether that's fine or not, that's up to council. But just hearing from everyone, I think, is a really good idea. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I can also we did provide a written response back to the customer who's lodged the CRs addressing a number of their questions. I can provide a copy of that to all of you as well, so you can see what
You've sent that to me already, haven't you?
Okay, you've got that?
Well, I think we have, yeah.
Okay, anything else in open?
That is to come back at the council meeting on the 6th.
Yeah. Well, if we can get the information, yeah.
Well, I think we need to stress that because after the 6th, we're not meeting again unless there's some other reason. And
That's right.
I don't know, but are any of these events attached around Easter? And the new council will not be meeting until after that.
That's why I said 1 week's not a lot of time from this meeting to the next meeting.
But anyway, we'll leave it with the CEO and officers and see how we go.
So I guess
obviously-
their current approval would cover them for Friday, Saturday and Sunday. That could be three of their events in a year on Easter. It would only be if they wanted something on a Thursday or Easter Monday till 9 p.m. that they would. They have the provisions in the current conditions to request additional hours, so they can probably still operate under Easter with their current approval. It might just be them requesting an extension, or just requesting an extension from us to consider.
And
Which
that was just a management decision, isn't it?
well, yeah, those requests don't usually go to the neighbours either, so
And that
it's
doesn't come to council, that's a
not normal.
delegated decision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What was
that's
that, sorry,
right.
just,
I was just going to ask that too. Does this normally come to us?
This does.
The minor
This
change.
14.2,
Yeah, the minor
it
change.
normally does.
Yeah, so minor changes that have
change.
previously gone to council, and when there was, especially when there were submissions, I.
but you said you
tend to
can,
bring it back.
So say for argument's sake,
temporary, not like an interim one.
Yeah, so the
Yeah,
existing
so
conditions.
somebody-
let it
Okay,
be.
moving on to 17.1.
Yep, okay.
Which one, 17?
17.1.
Thank you. Okay.
is it?
Back page 7.
We have,
Actually, let me have a look.
We lay that on the table. What do we lay on the
I
table?
thought we were just
for?
putting regional in. What we have to?
no, we've got the costings to do it.
Oh, costing.
Which one are we on, that back one?
Yeah, we're waiting for,
So, through the chair, there is a work order, Mitchell Admin Centre renovations, which have currently got 47,000 budget remaining. So we could take the 7,550. I've put the figure of 7,550 because that incorporates the $7,000 for the cost of all the bits and pieces for internal and external CCTV, as well as the cost of the service itself. So that's the figure I came up with. But yes, there is a general ledger I
you'll
can.
be able to give that
Yep.
to the. I'm
Yep,
happy
the
to
minute
move
taker.
that.
All right. Okay. Work order.
Kel, would it be a stretch if we
2274.
moved on to closed in the meantime? Righto, so we'll go on to closed. Yeah, we're gonna come back. Okay, C1, nomination of projects, Disaster Ready Fund Round 2, 2024-25. Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that council receive and note the report and consider applying for funding under the Australian Government's Disaster Ready Fund Round 2. Oh,
Yeah, she's
sorry.
on. No, she's got the.
Oh, no, actually, I was reading off here, sorry. Government Fund Round 2, 2024-25 for Project 1, improvements to Council's disaster dashboard, Stream 1, Project 2, additional rock protection on Roma Levy, Stream 2, and Project 3, McDowell Street stormwater upgrades, Stream 2. Oh, there's more, sorry. 2, include the co-contributions required in the 2024-25 budget if successful. And 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign funding agreement and any other necessary documentation if successful.
Okay, we've got a second to Councillor McMullen. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
Just, Mr Mayor, if one of these do get up, the number 3, I think it'd be good for the community, especially around the school and the school bus runs.
Yeah, I'd like to speak. I'm supportive of both. As it was said, it depends on the funding providers. What are they interested in? We've put 2 important projects up. As Mayor, I'm very concerned about making sure our levy is the best it can, because we could, God forbid, have a 1 in 1,000-year event. Records seem to be broken, so the extra strengthening of the wall, I think, is a very good idea. So I think putting 2 sort of different projects in and see if we can get that funding and get it completed. Certainly supporting these applications for funding. And in regards to updating our dashboard and getting it so more user-friendly so people can look up our flood cameras, I think that's a really good initiative as well. So I'll certainly be supporting the different streams and the project options in Stream 2, and very supportive of the officers bringing this forward. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thank you.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, we might just pause for a second and we'll just get something up on the screen. Hinkle, did you have a question?
Are we back on?
Yeah, we're back on.
We're back in the meeting.
Yep.
So have you moved to put?
I'm going to move it in a second, but if you had a question on this item.
Yeah, I do. I have a few questions. Sorry, Councillor Labrock, but I do have some questions.
That's okay.
So this is the Amby Hall. Is there a conflict there?
No. So just wanted to find out, Mr Mayor, I don't know any background behind this. Like, obviously you and Councillor Burkett have gone to a meeting and...
Well, everyone was invited to the...
Oh, yeah, no, that
I
wasn't
was there as well, yeah.
Definitely not, yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Please,
right.
please speak.
So all I'm saying is, it's a fair amount of money in the budget. I don't know any background about it. I'd just like to know if we could be provided with a background. So previously we were getting a report back about this, which I was fully supportive of. Now if we're transferring it from a report to a decision being made today, I probably need a little bit more information to be able to make the expenditure of that on today. So I've got to have some background about what's happened, what it is, what sort of security we're putting up, to be able to make that decision today.
I don't know if we'll be able to say stuff in, might have to go to close.
Adjourn, just adjourn until.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to move it into closer though. Is there no way the report can't come back to next Wednesday?
I think it's pretty urgent, but I'm happy to speak to it when we get it in there and see if there's enough information for you. It's a request for an agenda, but I'm going to move something. So do we need to change that at all?
My issue with that, Mr Mayor, is then if you do that, then I might be voting against something because I don't have the background today to make a decision. That if I had the background next week, because it comes back in a report, that I would vote for.
Well, I'm happy to explain. This is really about putting some security inside and outside of Amby Hall. There is a difference of opinion with different community members and groups. Everyone uses the hall. Generally, when there's security, everything works out really well. And I think for all members of the community, having it recorded inside and outside, protecting obviously council's asset on behalf of the people of the Maranoa, but just putting that into place. So we've done so much. We've done other buildings in town, in other communities. Obviously, we'd love to do it everywhere. We've done it down in Noongar and so forth. Because there is a difference of opinion, I think it's really important to do it now. And it's really simply CCTV inside and out and providing the monitoring for that. And I think that's really all it is. And it's because there is a difference of opinion. I think it will protect everyone. And then if anything is done inside or out, there'll be a record of it, which will be fine. Yeah.
Mr Mayor, could I?
Yeah.
I don't disagree with what you said, but I'm not going to pussyfoot around with it. People that had access to that hall went in there and dismantled other groups' layouts, displays and everything, and stacked them all in the corner.
And they're not sure
who did it or
what's taken and what's not. But I think it does also refer back to the earlier one with the QCWA, the changes, because this is not the first thing. There's been a multiple changes trying to appease everyone, and then the public meeting was called and the disgruntled party didn't turn up, but then they had another meeting the next day on their terms, and then the town proceeded to, and then they left. But still, at the moment, there's technically 2 APAs, technically.
Okay, now I understand. And I've read the minutes of the meeting and I understand what's going on there, but I just wanted to understand what the security was relating to exactly that, or was there break-ins in the area?
Oh, no.
I just needed to understand what.
And it's a bit of the unknown too, Councillor Henker. We're not sure what could happen next because we don't.
And if anything happened, there'd be hearsay, whereas this is actually video evidence of what's happening.
Where will it be captured?
Well, we've got,
Through the chair.
we could ask the manager
it'll be
to.
recorded on the CCTV. I don't think it's back to face, but I'm
Does
sure.
that come back to Roma?
Through the chair, I can't answer you there. Whether it's a standalone, I should imagine it probably would be.
Well then, how's that protected in the hall? Like if it's a standalone unit and it's captured in the hall, who's...
I'd look through the chair.
Could we ask manager
certainly
to come in?
have to ask the manager.
There is one, you're probably aware of it.
Sure.
You know, the farm cams, they're driven by GPS and it comes on your camera.
We'll just
probably the
adjourn
same thing, I'd say.
to get the manager of IT to come and talk to us. We've got a question. Thank you, manager. As far as does it go back to bases or it only recorded in there?
So we would only record at the local site. So we put it in a secure cabinet within the hall itself. But we do manage it remotely. So if we were to retrieve information, so a request come through from the police, we would remote into it and pull that imagery back over that. So it'd be like a time frame. Let's have a look. So we can view it, but we do not stream it all the way back. It'd just be too expensive to stream it all the way back from that site. So 100%. All our cameras, so the 300 that we got out there, we remotely manage that way. If it goes down, we know beforehand, so there's no point, oh, it's been down for the last 3 months.
So if the power went off and it went down, you'd know straight away.
100%.
So Ruben, how long does it record for?
Typically, ours, we try to scope them out to, so depending on how many cameras, we try to have it 30 days for those. After 30 days, it'll start to try to ride over itself. So often we'll make the configurations to fit within that tolerance.
So you can do that from here, or you got to go there?
No, correct. We can do that from here. So it's all centrally configured, and that's part of that benefit. When we get so many cameras, yeah.
And then go again.
Sorry, it will automatically do that itself. So as it fills up, 30 days is the limit, and it'll start. It might go to 31 or 32, but we try to set it up to.
Okay.
If you wanted something on the 1st, you've got to get it by about the 28th, 29th.
Pretty much, yeah. So, but generally, we would find so far is that if an issue had happened, then the police would let us know. As long as they're reporting it timely to the police, then we haven't had too many options where we haven't been able to get it. So,
Just with that through you, Mr. Mayor, when you say about you can retrieve it, or say you know when there's a loss of power, but just say I knock it off, like smash it, does that come up as like a loss of power? But you still got that evidence behind there of them breaking it. You've still visually got that.
so that the recordings actually go back to a little hard drive inside the cabinet. So if they went inside that cupboard and decided to rip that off the wall and break it, then we probably wouldn't retain that footage. But probably by that point, it's probably worse than definitely, we do. We can get all the monitoring. Like if someone does break the camera, it'll actually come up. We what they call polls. So we send a message to it every so many seconds to say, are you still awake? You still there? And it'll come back if it's gone down or been faulty. So.
Is Councillor Edwards?
There's certain cameras, the farm cams and all that sort of stuff. They don't actually show you the number plate of the car. You can't read it. So is there any issue? You can only read it when you go and get the little disc out and stick it in your computer, and then you can see what the number plate is.
Yeah, yep.
But is this good enough for that?
We can. So depending if the requirement is number plate recognition, we would generally put in a specialised camera to record number plates. If we've got the benefit of, we know that all the people that are entering the facility are coming through a fairly tight gate or gap, we can put a camera into position and capture it. Yeah. But if we're wanting to actually record, as in the police would like to know number plate X, we could punch that into the system and say, okay, show us footage when this car and this number plate came through. So that's a special camera to do that.
To be positioned correctly somewhere, so it picks that up.
Definitely, if that's a use case, then we would scope the project to make sure that. But generally, for building security, we don't usually use number plate recognition cameras for that purpose.
Okay.
Is the location of the cameras in the internal cameras, that is for the display area?
Basically, there's two main rooms, so I think there was a camera for each room, was there?
Oh, sorry, I haven't had much on this for
Yeah.
this one. So I would say we would, yeah. So with the internal, wherever we need them. So we've just scoped at this stage 6 cameras for the site, pretty much kind of what we would do. But each of those, we could pull back those cameras for whatever numbers you need. You probably wouldn't want to go probably above 8 for a site.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we've got to start increasing that hardware.
I just think we've got to be mindful, I'm not against this, the display area is the area of interest.
Yep.
That other room, which is the kitchen area and the dining area, there could be meetings, there could be other things that people feel comfortable in a community hall, not that they're getting recorded in there. And so I would suggest or advise that I wouldn't be putting it in there.
Well, it might be sort of the opposite, because sometimes if there's some evidence of it, if people have bad behaviour, you're actually capturing that.
Going on a couple of meetings.
So, like, it's as long as everyone knows, and it, no one can look at that footage except for council.
Can it record, is it recording voice?
No, we're definitely not. So in Queensland, we can't record voices, audio at all. I think the ruling around it is if at least one party member has to be have acknowledged that they're recording it. If there's a conversation happening, it's being recorded, neither parties have knowledge of that recording, so we can't.
Yep.
Can I just reiterate too that when we did that policy document, I was very, very careful that went in there, that
Yes.
there's no recording of any voices.
Yep.
So that is exactly right.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So we make sure that that control is turned off. They do have the ability, but we ensure that that is turned off on every device. Internal recording, very rarely will we put cameras inside like a public area. If there is a function, sometimes we have found that if it is a party, something like that, not always that people would probably want to be captured in that. So we are careful around that request and probably work with the stakeholders to ensure that they're comfortable with that. Definitely for displays. Often if we're worried about the internal break-ins, if we position them strategically, as long as we can capture people coming in and out of that building, realistically, anything that bad has happened in that building, we'll see that person coming and going. And that's often where we'll capture them, not so much the actual incident happening, but the person coming and going. That's usually where the police are mostly interested in.
And it's, I think it's a benefit, videotaping the meetings. No one looks at it. No one's ever going to, unless it's a police issue or something.
Yep.
But it's just recording the behaviour without any audio. So, okay, I'd like to move, I'd like to move motion without, so can we CEO?
look,
Do we have to put a new title, or is it, can we use that one?
We can use this one. The logic I'm using is that the item is before you. Okay, the detail wasn't before you, and you've had a discussion in general in relation to that. I've circulated an email to councillors just with the figure in relation to the cost of the CCTV. So I do believe you can just move move a motion from the floor.
Righto. Well, I'd like to move that Council 1 proceed with installation of internal and external security cameras for the Amby Hall. 2, draw the funds of up to $7,550 from work order 22741 Mitchell Admin Centre renovations to complete the works. Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. Any opposition?
Can I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
That second figure in the email, is that an annual thing or just is that
It's
a
your
one-off
service fee
one-off
set
thing?
up, and then there would be ongoing maintenance costs.
Okay.
There'll be a data thing to log in.
Thank
Okay, does anyone wish to speak? Councillor McMullen. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, back to the
Thanks, Ruben.
Thank you. Thank you,
Appreciate
Ruben.
that.
C2, request for sponsorship Outback Queensland Masters. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that Council 1 commit to sponsoring the event for the amount of $22,000 and further negotiate in-kind sponsorship as requested by Outback Golf Masters. 2, allocate $22,000 to 2024-2025 sponsorship budget GL 2887.2249 for the Outback Golf Masters event. 3, acknowledge council sponsorship in all forms of media for this event.
We have a seconder, Councillor Hancock. Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Mr. Mayor, I think this is great for the whole region, and hopefully as it gets closer, it's a bit more, we know a bit more and we can tell the public, and it'll be very exciting times.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C3, resumption of rates, sale of land update, page 45. Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move that Council 1 receive a note of progress on resumption of rate sale of land proceedings.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor. Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C4, request for waiver of fees. I would like to move that 1, receive and note the request. Approve the waiver or refund of legal fees of the amount of $708.73, subject to evidence of financial hardship being produced to council, including a stat deck explaining details.
Mayor, question?
Please go
What are
ahead.
you going to do with number 2? You can't just you've either got to approve it or waive, refund it.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll make that number 3 and not approve the waiver of refund of rates and charges for the period 01/01/24 to 30th of the 6th 24 of $755.81.
So the person's got to prove to
Yeah,
get the
they-
708, but the other one's.
Well, but that's rates, so, you know.
You're meaning approved.
Yeah, I'm very confused with that.
Okay, yeah, no, 3 for the legal fees is approved, sorry. Approved the refund of legal fees, or, you know, whatever the correct terminology, for that subject to evidence of financial hardship being provided to council, including a stat deck explaining details. And then the third one is not to approve the waiver of rates.
There's not a refund too?
Big pardon?
Not refunding.
No, there's not.
No, well, they've already paid the rates.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's.
Yeah, not
But if you're
approve,
not
not approve a refund.
Oh,
You're not
sorry.
Yeah,
waiving
not
the
approve
rates.
a
Sorry,
refund.
you're right, yeah.
You're not waiving the rates.
Yeah.
No.
Not approve a refund.
I thought you, yeah, I thought you said.
So it means that this is subject to actually getting evidence, and we have done this before, but I'll speak about this. Is there a seconder for the motion?
Can I just ask, so we're not doing a refund of legal fees because they didn't pay the legal fees, did they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they have to on
They've already
settlement.
settled, yep.
They had to get it.
I'll shoot and match with the solicitors.
They're actually over.
Okay, is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Ladbrook? I'll speak to it. You know, we are able to give a waiver based on financial hardship. So this is putting it in the ratepayers' court to be able to explain that. And if they explain that, then this motion would be about waiving the legal fees, because I think that is the fair thing to do, and obviously wouldn't do it on the rates at this stage because, you know, everyone has to pay rates. So does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Through Madam CEO, council has incurred the cost of the legal fees, haven't they?
They have indeed.
Okay. Councillor Guthrie.
Can I just query the wording with subject to evidence of financial, would it be subject to evidence being provided of meeting that category of financial hardship? Because this way here, we're actually not saying that there's actually a criteria of financial hardship, we're just saying if you send some evidence, we'll put it under the heading of, I mean, it's got to be actually meeting the criteria that's specified of financial hardship.
And we have had it before, there's been, yeah.
But I don't think it's clear enough in the wording there.
Well, I'm happy to go with what you've suggested. Is the seconder happy with that?
Yes, I am.
Does anyone else wish to speak to it or against it? Councillor Taylor.
I'm going to speak against it because I can't agree with number 2 to refund the legal fees. As the CEO said, we've paid for them. They didn't pay it on time, so that's what it is. So I do support number 3, but I can't support number 2, so I'll vote against the motion.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll speak. I'm going to vote against this as well. The legal fees have been incurred because this particular circumstance and this individual didn't pay their rates on time. And it is just not fair on the broader rate base that they have to bear the cost of the $708.73. We have some amazing ratepayers in our region that pay their rates on time, all the time. As I expressed earlier, I think we spend far too much time talking about the people that don't pay their rates and the ones that do. And there's, correct procedure that we follow when people don't pay their rates. And we have to engage legal to be able to do our best to recoup the unpaid rates. And with that comes a fee. And whilst it is a small amount of money at $708.73, that should not be borne by the ratepayers, the good ratepayers in the Maranoa who pay their rates on time all the time. And so on that basis, I won't be supporting this.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Guthrie.
I actually requested that criteria of financial hardship be included because I think we do have that as part of a reasonable, if people have circumstances that need to be considered that fit under a criteria of financial hardship, we should allow people to be able to access that. Whether or not they meet that criteria then becomes something to be assessed, but I think it's about extending the opportunity for them to provide information on a stat deck that explains exactly what the circumstances were.
Okay, does Councillor Burkett?
I'm a bit similar to Mrs. Guthrie. Councillor Guthrie, it's not it's not a done deal yet. They've got to meet that criteria. So I'm allowed to be. I can understand what Councillor Neal says totally. But at least we're just giving that little bit of. They've still got to work for it. If they can't meet that criteria, well, it's not going to happen. So, and I'm happy with number 3.
Okay, Councillor Hancock.
Just a question.
Councillor McMullen.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, Councillor McMullen. Do you have a question or do you wish
No,
to
I've got
speak?
No, I'm speaking.
Okay, well, we've got a question here and then we'll go to the speaking. Please go ahead.
Just through the chair, Madam CEO, just remind me of the processes. So before we went to legal action, does the resident have an opportunity to claim financial hardship with council, to be on a payment plan, to provide evidence that they are in financial hardship? Is there opportunity before council has to spend money on legal fees to be able to request that of council, and would they have been given the opportunity?
If the ratepayer would have been given opportunity throughout the rates recovery process of coming to an alternative arrangement with council.
Okay, Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I can't support this. I have trouble giving someone a refund on something they've already paid on the grounds of hardship. It's been paid, so I don't know how hardship would come into it, to be honest. That's why I won't be supporting it. It's not like that. If it was still an outstanding debt, could probably have a different view on it.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hancock.
And Mr Mayor, I can't support this either, just with regards to the process that the CEO has informed us today. I actually do believe that if there is grounds for hardship, you know, we are a compassionate council and we would look at that. But I honestly believe that there is opportunity for residents to bring that to council's attention before we have to engage legal and actually spend the money. Once we've engaged legal and we've spent the ratepayers' money on legal fees, that's got to be a cost that's incurred to the people that it's attributed to. So I can't support this. I do believe that the people have got ample opportunity. I think our rates recovery policy is actually very compassionate, and we actually do try to give the residents the best opportunity to be able to pay for their rates, put a payment plan in. So on that basis and the information CEO has provided today, I just can't support this resolution. Someone has to pay.
Okay, no one else wish to speak? Councillor Edwards.
Similar to Councillor Burke, Councillor Guthrie, I'll be supporting it. You know, we don't know the circumstances, so, I mean, we've got a bit of an inkling, and based on what I know, I'm certainly prepared to vote for it based on the fact that we've got the backup of the second point there, second point, where they've got to meet the criteria of financial hardship. So I think it's just another compassionate move on our part to be able to do that. So that's what it's there for. So we'll see what happens.
Just a question, Mr. Maybe, just with that, does that come back? You say they don't meet number 2. Do we get told that, or is it just straight through to the rate?
Look, through the chair, if we can't enact one of your resolutions, we're honour bound to come back to you to say that.
Okay, so I'll sum up. All I would say is I totally disagree with Councillor O'Neill, and God help us, because we wouldn't even have hospitals, because all the well people don't need a hospital, so it's not needed. Compassionate grounds is in the Local Government Act, I believe, that councils can do that. That's because It is available, and I believe we should use it when we can prove that it is needed. I don't believe voting against this is compassionate in any way. I believe that this is a reasonable motion, and as far as someone paying it, so how can you not give a concession? You might borrow money off someone just to be able to pay it because you've got to clear the debt and get the sale to go through, but you're still in financial hardship. So that doesn't make any sense in my opinion, because a council will not let the contract go through unless it's cleared. So I don't think that was their first choice. And I disagree with voting against the motion because, as it was stated, the ratepayer had their husband in hospital with a serious condition, and if we don't have some compassion,
Sorry, who stated that? Where was that stated? No one stated that.
No, I'm stating that in this.
You just breached.
No, I'm stating that compassionate grounds is being in hospital, and they are compassionate grounds.
You've just breached information that is confidential.
Compassionate grounds is being in hospital, and I think we all should have compassion, and I will be voting for compassion. And on that note, let's go to the vote. All those in favour? And those against? That's 6-3 if I can call for a division.
No, sorry, that's 5-4.
5-4 if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on to C5, exclusion for Roma landfill waste facility. Do we have a mover? Councillor Ladbroke.
I'd like to move that council receive and note the report. That was 1. Number 2, authorise Chief Executive Officer to issue the banning notice to exclude those residents as named in the report to enter the Roma landfill for a period of 6 months with a further review.
We have a seconder. Who was first out of? Okay, Councillor Edwards. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Ladbroke.
Yeah, I just think 6 months is a good time, and we got to look after our staff. So if they can't behave, we just need to look after our staff.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Guthrie.
I just think this is a big step to undertake, and it's not one that I think we would do very often, but I think it's important because it sends a very powerful message out to all people, the public generally, that when they enter a location, a public location such as the Roma landfill, that good manners need to prevail. People need to speak appropriately and to then not interrupt the operations of a particular business or a location. So I think it's a very powerful message that just reminding people to be respectful and to actually do the right thing.
All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, moving on. Late. LC1, Budget Amendment 23-24, Capital Works Program, Campbell Park Reservoir Replacement and Airport Water Main Upgrades. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council approve the reallocation of $245,000 for the following projects sourced from deferrals in the existing 2023-24 capital program. 1. $75,000 from the Campbell Park Roma Reservoir Replacement. 2. $170,000 from work order 24597, Annual Urban Stormwater Relining Program, transferred to Roma upgrading of water mains, Roma Airport, upgrade of water mains, work order 23826 as part of the 23-24 budget. 3. Consider a $170,000 allocation to the annual urban stormwater relining program as part of the 2024-25 budget.
We have a second of councillor Edwards. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I think it's just good to get it sorted out and get the problem fixed with that allocation of money for the water main for the airport.
Yeah, I think with, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, councillor Edwards, you wish to speak?
Yeah, no, I was just going to agree with that, but when you've got an asset like that, it's just got to be SMIC, you know, and ready to go, so that's very important.
Okay. On that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Was there one more, Kel? No? Beauty. That's excellent. Okay, then on this note, we'll close the meeting at 3:44 p.m. and thank you for your attendance. Thank you.